Hey, everybody. It is April 2nd, 2020, day 2 of 30 of the latest 30 days to stop the spread, which may not be the final 30 days to stop the spread. We just don't really know yet. All we can do is take it day by day. And these streams, almost daily streams, have sort of become it's kind of like a coronavirus update day. We go through the numbers. I hear from you guys. We listen to the president lie. We listen to doctors mostly tell the truth. We listen to questions from journalists. That's sort of what we're doing because we are all home for the most part. Heard about 75% of the country, individuals now, are socially distanced, physically distanced to some degree and probably needs to be more. But I actually read an interesting study today which says that it's 80%. You need to get above 80% for the social distancing to really work properly. Maybe we will get there now with the addition of a stay-at-home order in Florida and more stay-at-home orders coming in other states, presumably. Top of the hour is when today's press briefing is scheduled. We don't know if it will start on time or if it will not. We have 3 different streams that we are monitoring: primary, secondary, and backup, I guess is what we are calling them. Volume levels and video quality, always unpredictable. So I like to have backups. Let's get to the latest numbers. Officially, as of right now, 1,007,000 coronavirus cases globally. We have surpassed the 50,000 death mark, tragically above 52,000 at this point in time. The U.S. still by far now leading, more than double the official cases of any other country, followed by Italy, Spain, Germany, and China. We really, at this point, I just don't know if we can trust the Chinese numbers or not. You know, initially we thought we couldn't. Then we were told WHO officials are there verifying. Then it seems after the Taiwan fiasco that maybe we can't trust WHO officials. I just don't know. I think we just have to carry forward, essentially ignoring the Chinese numbers and focusing on the mitigation that South Korea has been able to do. Consider that South Korea got its first case within a 24-hour period of the U.S. They have only 169 deaths, all tragic, but we had over 1,000 deaths yesterday. They still have only 169. Very, very important stuff. Okay, let's look at the United States number at this point. The latest data is that we officially have 240,000 cases, 5,808 deaths. Of course, I don't have to remind most of you that Donald Trump said this would be washed through like a miracle by April, that Donald Trump said we have 15 cases, which will soon be 0. We have no deaths, etc. We now have 5,808 deaths. Still at this point in time, 123,000 of the 240, right around 50% of the cases, are in 2 states, New York and New Jersey. Michigan and California both join the 5-digit or more case numbers, both with 10,000. Louisiana now over 9,000. Massachusetts rapidly approaching. Florida, of course, is going to see huge growth. Florida has a population of 22 million. It's the 5th oldest state. The population of Florida, the median age is the 5th oldest. So as Florida gets more and more cases, it's going to be very ugly. They have a stay-at-home order starting tomorrow from Smurf Governor Ron DeSantis, who just waited way, way, way too long. As you know, it takes 10 to 14 days for a stay-at-home order to be reflected in the numbers. So the next 10 to 14 days in Florida are going to be really, really bad. However, on the upside, it looks like they aren't doing that much testing. And that's a great way to artificially keep the official number of cases lower than it is in reality. Really bad what we are expecting in Florida at this point in time. The latest update on the model. This is the IHME model from Christopher Murray, Dr. Christopher Murray. You can find it at covid19.healthdata.org. This is updated every day. We are now 13 days until peak resource use on April 15th. April 15th is expected to be the day of peak resource use. April 16th expected to be the top death day. 14 days from that, now it is projected that we will have somewhere between 1,200 and 4,100 deaths on April 16th. An unconscionable number. The that's the confidence interval. The specific number 2644, very important. The peak is not one day. I know I'm saying this daily, but we will be above 1,500 deaths a day, according to the model, between April 5 all the way to May 3rd. So the peak, in a sense, is going to really be almost a month. And that's extraordinarily difficult to understand because for lots of us, it feels like we've been doing this for so long already. Like we're almost 3 full weeks in here in Massachusetts. Something like 94% of the deaths haven't happened yet, right? The feeling of, wait a second, we're only 6% in. And of course, because of the curve, we're more than 6% in time-wise, hopefully. But we still have 94% of the deaths are in front of us. The latest total death number, 93,531. Importantly, this is only the first wave. We are expecting a second and probably a third wave, and 93,000 deaths expected in this first wave. Those numbers are updated daily, and we are looking at them with you at every stream. Let me welcome everybody who is joining me via Twitter, Twitch, Facebook Live, and of course, YouTube. If you're joining on YouTube, remember to like the stream and to subscribe. We are expecting the press briefing to start at the top of the hour. Reports are that Anthony Fauci will not be there today. We also now have a number of reports that Dr. Anthony Fauci needs armed security because, listen, he is a tiny 79-year-old doctor trying to save lives. Of course, Trumpists are sending him death threats. It's one of the most depressing little factoids of this entire thing that he needs armed security. I have a whole story about that today on the on my YouTube channel forthcoming, so I won't spend too much time on that. Let me say a few thank yous to people who are sending super chats. Inconsolable says, David is a Navy veteran. I'm disgusted with how the Navy has treated not only the situation, but the hero CO who brought attention to the dire situation. He has been fired. It's a disgrace. Yes, it is. Name withheld says, hey, David, what kind of veggies do you recommend this year? Thinking about zucchini and yellow squash. Do you mean what veggies do I recommend eating or growing? Eating, I mean, they're all so good. Growing, I am soon going to be planting some peppers, snow peas, going to be doing my tomatoes, of course. There's videos on my Instagram of my tomato harvesting from last season. I'm in touch with a friend who has multiple very strong degrees in vegetable growing, essentially. I mean, we're talking about, agriculture and so on and so forth. And he is guiding me via Zoom, socially distanced, of course, in getting my garden going. And I'll keep you guys posted. Jamal Swift says, hey, homie, had to take a break in order to regain optimism, but I'm back. How do you protect your mental health through all of this, meditation, etc.? Yes, meditation, trying to take scheduled breaks from it. So like last week, Friday, Saturday, I just stayed away from everything. No live streaming, did as little as possible. Read, played keyboard, played drums, ran, stuff like that. I will probably do it again this weekend. Danny Thompson says, living in Minnesota like being in another world. Governor Walz started the daily briefing by thanking the press for their great questions every day to keep them going. Imagine that. Ian says, please make a Cameo account. Cameo's been trying to recruit me, but I don't want to spread myself too thin. Sensible Talk says, smash that like button, folks. Yes, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Donna Williams says, David, have you read the book, The Cult of Trump? No, I have not. I try to avoid political books, to be perfectly honest. I get enough politics researching the show. Hound Dog says Tennessee governor is signing a stay-at-home order today. Glad to hear it. That's what needs to happen. Let me say a few thank yous for people signing up on my website. Dennis Williams is new member number 1 today. Jeremy Wrench is new member number 2. And Casey McNeely is new member number 3. Oh, so listen to this. There has been major, I'll tell you guys a story because we're just standing by here. We have had a crazy 24 hours here at the show. So yesterday, I explained on stream when it was later into the stream, so we had more people watching than we do right now. Yesterday, I explained everybody's tightening their belts. in March, we lost a record number of members. I'm well beyond just pretending like everything's just peachy keen. We had 389 members cancel memberships in March. Normally, I want to be talking to you about how many people subscribed. Instead, 389 people canceled memberships. So yesterday on stream, I said, listen, I don't want your last $2, but if you're in a financial position where you can support the work that we are doing, this would be a great time to do it. Go to joinpacman.com, grab a membership. Coupon code is up there. So many people did it at once that our entire website crashed, and not for 5 minutes, for like the better part of 50 minutes, only working intermittently. During the stream, and this is all recorded on yesterday's video, I was sending messages to our web developer. She was sending messages to our performance consultant, and they were feverishly, I would even say feverently, look that one up on Urban Dictionary. They were urgently trying to get the website to come back up. And with only sporadic website functionality, we had like 37 people or so who grabbed memberships yesterday. And I said to them, listen, guys, how many people tried to sign up during the stream? They said it looks like it was probably close to 150 people. Of course, we were all on the same page. Like, we can't have we can't lose 100 memberships because the website crashed. Like, we need that working. So from yesterday to today, there have been many hours, many man and woman hours. Our web developer is a woman, trying to increase resources on the website, which we have now doubled overnight. So once again, I will mention, this is a great time to get a membership at joinpacman.com. We did lose 389 members in March, worst month that we've had as far as that goes. The coupon code 2020 now makes a monthly membership $2 a month. A yearly membership is $20 for the year, like $1.83 a month. Very, very inexpensive. And let's test the website. I now have a whole panel in front of me, and they are monitoring it, which shows resource usage, CPU usage, and all sorts of stuff. And we need it to work. Right now, it's nice and steady at 13% CPU usage. And it looks like there are 12 people right now somewhere in the sign up process. So let's test it. And we really need it to work. So it'll be we've got a lot of people keeping an eye on what's going on. Let me say thank you to Free Hong Kong 4 for signing up with Twitch Prime. Golden Jericho has subscribed. Grok23 has subscribed. Okay, let's get to something fun, okay? During the State of the Union, I published on Twitter a Donald Trump bingo card. We now are going to develop a coronavirus press briefing bingo card for Trump. Now, this is just because we're doing something, okay? We are not minimizing the seriousness of coronavirus. We're not doing anything other than everybody's going crazy, so we want to develop a bingo card. So a viewer of mine sent me some ideas for the bingo card. I'm going to tell you what they are. You guys can then suggest additional elements for the bingo card. We will put it together. We can all play along in the future, okay? So here are some ideas for the Donald Trump press briefing bingo card. I know blank better than anyone, right? So Trump will say, I know South Korea better than anyone. I know blank better than anyone. The country is meant to be open. Blaming Obama, and that includes using the term inherited, because he talks about we inherited XY. That's code for Obama. Not taking responsibility for something when asked. Saying that we are looking at it. We are looking at it. Anytime anybody asks a question, Trump doesn't really know. He says, we're looking at that. Saying a question is nasty. Saying that something like you've never seen before is going on. Saying that a question is unfair. Using the phrase, many people have said. Saying that something is being done very strongly. Saying, visibly sweating. Usually by the end of the press conference, Trump's upper lip is very, very sweaty, visibly sweaty. So visibly sweating could be a square. Saying I knew everything when he's asked about when he learned about something or did he not know, saying he knew everything. Calling someone in the crowd fake news. Saying that we either have done the most or have the best tests for coronavirus. Using the term high marks to refer to his own performance, or grading himself an A or a 10 out of 10. That I think is like one square. It relates to grading himself. Using the term elements and using the word tremendous, which I see a lot of people have included there. So let me know in the chat. Okay, yeah, touching or fiddling with the mic. That's a good one. Let me see what. Oh, yeah. So when he says fast, when he talks about how quickly things are going to get going again, that's a good one. Oh, the term ratings. Yeah, the term ratings might be a good one. Then we'll vote on these and figure out which ones we actually want to use. This is just like a big, oh, it was a great or perfect call. That's a good one. I'm taking notes. China in a strangely pronounced way. I like that. That's good. Mentioning Boeing. Yeah, I don't know. I'll put it down. I don't know if that one is going to make the final cut. Mentioning Boeing is good. Oh, saying scourge and pronouncing it scourge, Skorj. That's a good one. Mentioning Walmart isn't a bad idea. I like that. This is great. I don't even have to think hard about it. You guys just do it for me. Best and most tests in the world I have already. Nasty, we know. Oh, no one could have known. That's a good one. No one could have known. That's good. Pronouncing plasma as plasma. Yep, that's good too. Plasma. Although that's happening less. Mentioning chloroquine, I'm unsure about because, like, that's actually, I mean, I want to be really careful about the chloroquine thing. Oh, the war language. Yeah, war. This is war. War references of different kinds. Mentioning governors. Okay, that could work. Saying someone is a great guy. Oh, industry. Yeah, that weird pronunciation of industry. I don't know if that. Oh, invisible enemy. Invisible enemy / scourge. That's good. It will go away. Complimenting OAN. Well, OAN got kicked out of the room by the White House Correspondents Association, so I don't know that he's going to be praising them too much. Fake news CNN we have. Unprecedented. Yeah, unprecedented is good. Okay, I've got like 50 now. So I'll start workshopping something and figure out what makes the most sense. So usually the square in the middle is a free one, but I almost feel like you don't really need a free square. Like tremendous could be the middle square. He's going to say it every time. We might as well not lose the middle square to free because he's using it every single time. All right, let's see how the website is holding up. We currently have, according to what I'm seeing, 14 people in the process of signing up for memberships. Let's see how the server is holding up. It is pushed up to, okay, so we're up to 38% CPU usage. Yesterday, when people tried to get memberships, it instantly went to 100% CPU usage and the entire thing was shut down. So I'm pleased if we can stay at 38% CPU usage. I'm actually sort of pleased to see those numbers. And let me thank some people, by the way, as people are signing up here. Let me see here. Okay. Marnie Evans is new member number 4 today. Thanks, Marnie. Raymond Sola is new member number 5. Thanks, Raymond. Eric Kamir is new member number 6. Lori Cox is new member number 7. Dave Bratt is new member number 8. Danny Ehrenbrink. I'm feeling good about my pronunciations today. Danny Ehrenbrink, Stacy Smith. These are simple. Stacy, thank you. You are new member number 10. Terry Morgan is new member number 11. Jans Kohler. That now it's getting dicey. Jans Kohler is new member number 12. Brett Ennis is new member number 13. And Natty Back Steve is new member number 14. Unclear if that is a legal name or not. Okay, let's see here. Let's get to some more super chats as they continue to come in. This is not an alias says, I live in Florida. My nephew is immunocompromised. I hope Ron DeSantis's mother is disappointed in him, but I doubt it. Fear Tech says, thank you from Australia. Thank you from the United States. M.A. Scott says, I have a nurse friend who volunteered to go to New York City, and she said the on-staff nurses were crying with relief when the volunteers walked in. I've been reading some of those reports as well. Horrible, 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 horrible what is going on right now. Zachary Monroe says, hey, Zach, I am spending my 19th birthday watching my favorite pundit. I am here at almost every stream. I love the work you and your team does to keep us all informed. Hashtag support for the David Pakman Show. Hashtag love for the Pakman. Zachary, happy birthday. Zach's been a fixture at my streams since months ago, and it's always great to see you. Also, thanks to Noopsy Chapin for the Soy Boy subscription. Ryan Nowicki says, have you made any investments since the drop in the market? Metals, stocks, and others are prime for some level savvy of investment. Stay safe, David. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you some of the investments I made. Let's pull up Yahoo Finance here, and we'll see together how they did today. I made a couple of different moves. So today is an upmarket day, so we'll see. So one thing I did was I did buy Roku. I think Roku, I've owned Netflix for years. I think Roku is likely to do well as people are staying home, up just a little bit today. And yeah, it dipped pretty low there. So I bought Roku. I bought Live Nation, the idea being they're going to get crushed for now. Ooh, brutal, down 12% today. But that eventually, right around this time is when I got in, that eventually live events are going to come back. I got some Bayer because they are one of the chloroquine makers, and sort of maybe chloroquine is going to be something, who really knows. What else did I get? I did buy a little bit of Bitcoin. There's one I'm forgetting. Wait, so Roku, Live Nation. Oh, right. And I also got Zoom because a lot of people are using Zoom now, and it's down pretty big today, but it's been up quite a bit since all of this stuff started. So these are sort of like, long plays. As many of you know, I don't really like trade stocks in any real way. I'm sort of a buy and hold sort of guy. If you're just joining us on YouTube, please remember, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It's free, and it really supports the work that we are doing bigly. Okay, I've got a couple other things to show you. Donald Trump tweeted earlier, just spoke to my friend Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who spoke with President Putin of Russia, and I expect and hope they will be cutting back approximately 10 million barrels, and maybe substantially more, which, if it happens, will be great for the oil and gas industry. The president is publicly bragging about working with Russia and the Saudis to make oil more expensive, which will make gas more expensive. Sit back for a second, close your eyes, and imagine that it was discovered back in 2013 that Barack Obama called up the Saudis and called up Putin and said, guys, let's work together to make oil more expensive. It would be 24 hours a day on Fox, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin. They would all be saying this is treason and the man must go. We just found out because Trump said it out loud. Trump is telling us, I'm trying to raise the price of oil by colluding with the Saudis and the Russians. These are insane times, absolutely insane times. The FDA has authorized the first coronavirus antibody test. This is very good news. Unfortunately, this is a test that can't be done with a pinprick and just a tiny bit of blood. This is a test that requires you to go in and have a phlebotomist draw blood. And of course, that's the last place anybody should be going right now. Anybody who can should be avoiding going anywhere where germs could be spread. And thus, it is interesting and it is good that there is an antibody test coming, but it is not practical for us to be relying on a test like that at this point in time. Lastly, here is video of Seema Verma. She is not a doctor, as I once incorrectly identified her. Here she is explaining that the reason we suck at coronavirus is we are a free country. Here's Seema.
Referring to when he says the best model we have for America is what's happened in Italy.
Well, I think that if you look at these other countries, if you look at China and South Korea, right, though they had very different approaches. We're a free country. We're giving recommendations to the American people. and hoping that they're going to adhere to those. In terms of what happened in Italy, the strain on the healthcare system, those are the things, the lessons that we are trying to learn from. We're trying to prepare our healthcare system. Some of the recent regulations that we pulled back from just earlier this week are going to have a really big impact on our healthcare system. It's giving them that flexibility at the local level.
What is the vice
So
president
understand
role?
what she's saying. The problem, the reason that we are sucking more than South Korea, for example, is that we are a free country and they are not. Now, South Korea is quite a free country if you actually look at freedom indices. But then she says, and what we're doing is we're going to make the country more free in the sense of letting corporations do whatever the hell they want. We're going to have more deaths because we are a free country, and we're reducing regulations, making it, as they would frame it, an even freer country. But they're expecting that that will turn around the death toll in some way. It's inconceivable acrobatics, mental acrobatics that these people are doing on a daily basis. And we're being failed by this leadership, if you can even call it that. The best news of the day, and this is not any kind of commentary on anything other than how bad Trump is at this stuff. Yesterday, Trump said he'd be willing to talk to Joe Biden about coronavirus and the plan. Joe Biden said he'd be willing to talk to Trump. And today the Trump campaign has announced, the Biden campaign has announced they are working on setting up that phone call with Donald Trump. It can only help, guys, at this point in time. It can only help. Let me say a few other thank yous to people signing up on my website. Rachel Sousa is new member number 15 today at joinpacman.com. Liberty Bishop is new member number 16 at joinpacman.com. David Arberk is new member number 17 today. Anthony Sanchez is new member number 18 at joinpacman.com. And Steve Rushing is new member number 19. So a lot of people emailed me after yesterday's fiasco on stream. Yesterday, when I mentioned 389 people canceled memberships in March and we could really use your support, like 150 people at once tried to go and get a membership and the entire website crashed. We have deployed double the bandwidth and CPU power to the website overnight. And I am pleased to tell you that for now, things are holding steady. Even though 19 people signed up in a pretty short amount of time, our server is running at 31% CPU usage. Right now, it looks like there's 22 people somewhere in the sign up process, and it's holding very steady, and it looks like it's functioning well. So far, so good. We have unleashed additional elements of CPU processing power, and it is holding steady. So consider yourself invited to go and grab a membership. Let me also say thanks to I Am CompuBear for supporting us on Twitch. Okay, let's go back to Super Chats here. Junie McGraw says, favorite Shakespeare book? Mine is Twelfth Night. You know, I do so much reading, but I am not a Shakespeare connoisseur. I would not be positioned. I have not read Shakespeare since college, and I would be lying if I told you I had a favorite book. Bulkier Writer says, would you moderate a debate between Kyle and Destiny? Sure, set it up and I will do it. Andrew Vons, as well as Mindy McNamara have grabbed YouTube memberships. Classy Andy says, someone tweeted a map of the flights in U.S. airspace compared to Europe. I was flabbergasted. Flights are still happening much more there than here. I haven't looked at that, but I will take a look. Anthony Fauci says, 2015 Dave Rubin, I love Bernie Sanders. 2020 Dave Rubin, Bernie Sanders and socialism will kill millions. Thoughts on Rubin's political changes? Listen, we are at too important of a time to spend time talking about Dave Rubin. I have a number of different videos on my website about what I believe about Dave Rubin. I don't really believe that he had this political awakening at close to 40 years of age. I've talked about it before. Let's not waste any more time on that. Incredibo TV says, bingo card is missing. Wacky question from OAN. OAN got kicked out of the briefing room, which is why I think it might be a waste of a bingo square to include OAN in it, because as far as I know, they're banned. They've been banned. Jed has grabbed a YouTube membership. Love Inspired says, we're doing a good job. Millions or billions. Yeah, we have good job on here already. Millions, billions could be a good one for the bingo card. I'll have to review. I've got, looks like 40 or 50 suggestions. I will evaluate all the best ones and tweet out a bingo card, maybe tomorrow. Bailey20 says, oh, sorry, hold on. Where'd that go? Bailey20 says, David, can you further explain how AOC's change in tactics will benefit the progressive movement? I have a video on that, which I published yesterday. And so I don't want to like redo videos during the streams. Mary D has grabbed a YouTube membership. Shannon Bennis says Candace Owens is a raging corona denier. She blocked me on Twitter, so people keep telling me what Candace Owens has been saying, but I have no idea because she blocked both of our show account and my personal account. Both of them are blocked on Twitter. Very sad. Very, very sad. Sam Dean says, I can't find any literature on how COVID-19 actually kills people. Is it heart failure, lung collapse? Seems the data just isn't being released. Odd. Well, no, it's respiratory. So people are either essentially unable to get the oxygen that they need, and you die if you don't get enough oxygen. It can also cause organ failure from organs not getting enough oxygen. So it's essentially, it's death from pneumonia, which afflicts elderly folks more often than younger folks. That is the mechanism, as far as the reports I've read. Stu Guy says rent freeze in Salt Lake City, Utah until May 15th. That's a good move. A necessary one, quite frankly. Maddie Ice PVD says Carol Baskin created coronavirus. Yeah, I just finished watching Tiger King yesterday. I was talking to my mom on the phone today and she said, should I watch it? And I said, listen, for sociological purposes, it's compelling. I don't know that you're going to love it, but I would say check it out and kind of see what it does for you and go from there. It will expose you to this disgusting underbelly. People where it's like, who even imagined that people like this exist in this country, in the world? But they do. So yeah, check that out. I finished that up. I'm watching Ozark season 3. I'm watching the Better Call Saul season that's currently airing on cable. I think that's season 5. What else am I watching? Just finished watching Hunters on Amazon Prime. Excellent show. I'm going to be watching Unorthodox on Netflix. And it was also recommended to me to watch Giri Haji, which is a Japanese show. Yeah, that's what I've got planned for my quarantine phase. Let me say a few other thank yous to people who are signing up on our website, which is performing beautifully right now. Anders Johnson is new member number 20 today. Yuri Bruce is new member number 21. Jeffrey Passage is new member number 22. Gavin Murray is new member number 23 today. Gregory Smith is new member number 24. Jennifer Kotzer is new member number 25. So, as I like to say, let's go for 50 and see if we can do it. Jacob Johansson has upgraded his subscription. I'm going to count it as a new one. Why not? Alice Guo is new member number 27 today. Thank you, Alice. Crystal Parker. Hey, Crystal. Great to see you. New member number 28. Stephen Dunkel is new member number 29. And Eric Lavanier or Lavanier, Eric I feel good about, is new member number 30 today. Also want to say thanks to Sebastian Lofgren, who's new member number 31. Guys, I have to tell you, we have 2 elements of our team that are closely monitoring website performance. It is holding beautifully. What a difference a day makes. Yesterday, the website crashing instantly when I mentioned membership. CPU usage is climbing. We're up to 41%, riding a little hotter now. But so far, excellent website performance. And our team is truly to be commended so far. Thank you. Okay, Charlie, for the bingo card, when Trump does this whole SIR thing, the SIR routine. Yeah, I'm going to put that. So if people aren't familiar with this, Trump does a routine where he will recount a story of someone coming to him to tell him something. And the way he always tells it is he'll say, the doctors came to me and they said, sir, blah, 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 blah. that whole thing where it's like, is that really how it all went down? Or did like your chief of staff come to you and say, hey, here's what someone said? It strikes me as completely insincere, but what we call the SIR routine, I think would be a good thing on our bingo card. If you're just joining us on Twitter and Facebook Live, welcome. We are standing by now 18 minutes beyond the scheduled time for today's press briefing. Reports are that Anthony Fauci will not be at today's press briefing. He does now have armed security due to the number of Trumpist threats against him. We're fucked, right? So that's the message that I get when a doctor who's 79, 5.5 feet tall, and is trying to save lives needs armed security 24 hours a day. Not good. Not good. If you're joining us on Twitch, make sure to follow my channel on Twitch. Dr. Goldie has just subscribed on Twitch, which I very much appreciate. If you're joining me on YouTube, welcome. Make sure that you're hitting that like button as soon as you come in. And I suggest hitting the subscribe button as well. A lot of people are talking about like. Nobody's talking about subscribe. And we're looking at subscribe very, very strongly. Okay, I Hate Juice sends a super chat. Waffles Giraffles says, I'm immunosuppressed. Got a cold, no fever so far. Sorry to hear that. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. David Adams says, I sanitized the like button for everyone. Exactly. It's ready to be pressed. Go right ahead, folks. Anthony Fauci says, studies say Medicare for all will save trillions in healthcare expenditures. What evidence is there that the tax increases will be less? You know, I have hours of content about the cost of Medicare for all. I don't want to riff because it's an issue that requires precision. Check out some of my videos on my YouTube channel about that. Adam Kennedy says, David, I will pay for 5 memberships for members that watch your show, but have to cancel membership due to coronavirus troubles. You know, one of my viewers wrote me today and said, David, listen, I'm already a member. I would love if there was a way to easily gift a membership to somebody else. So here's the idea I had. We could start to develop a list of people's names and email addresses that want a free membership and can't afford one, right? Anytime someone writes to me and says, hey, I'd like to get 5 memberships for people, I send them 5 names and email addresses. They go on our website and buy the membership for someone. That person, boom, like magic, gets notified. You now have a David Pakman Show membership. There may be something to this idea. We just have to kind of keep the logistics. I don't want to be full time, like having to write these. It could be a lot of logistics. It's an idea. The other idea would be like some kind of Google Doc, but I don't want to be doxing people. I don't want to be putting, how do you do it? I don't know exactly, but we want to develop a system for sure. Waffles Giraffles says, bing, bing, bong, bingo. There you go. Michael says, people still look up to this guy. He called it a hoax. It's very sad. Here's Mnuchin. Oh boy, if Mnuchin's here, you know it's going to be ugly. Let me say a few other thank yous. Let me see here. Laura Hopkins is new member number 32 today at joinpacman.com. Sean Safin is new member number 33. Kitty Aguilar is new member number 34. And I will keep thanking folks after. Here are Trump and Pence.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to be with you all. We're in a very critical phase of our war against the coronavirus. It's vital that every American follows our guidelines on the okay, thank you very much. To slow the spread. The sacrifices we make over the next 4 weeks will have countless American lives saved. We're going to save a lot of American lives, and we're in control of our own fate, very much so. Maintaining social distance, practicing vigorous hygiene, and staying at home are your most effective ways to win the war and to escape danger. While you're fighting this battle from home, we're working with the best scientists, doctors, and researchers anywhere in the world. We're racing to develop new ways to protect against the virus, as well as therapies, treatments, and ultimately a vaccine. And we're making a lot of progress. I think medically, a lot of progress. At the same time, we're also racing to get relief to American workers and small businesses, as you know. I want to remind small business owners across America that the Paycheck Protection Program is launching tomorrow. Nearly $350 billion in loans will be
Let me see if we've got a better sound level over here.
American workers and small businesses, as you know. I want to remind small business owners across America that the Paycheck Protection Program is launching tomorrow. Nearly $350 billion in loans will be available to small businesses, including sole proprietors. These loans are up to 100% forgivable as long as employers keep paying their workers. Got to take care of your workers. Furthermore, we want Social Security beneficiaries to know that if they are typically not required to file a tax return, they don't have to file one in order to receive the direct cash payments that will soon be distributed to American citizens. The Treasury will deposit the money directly into the bank accounts. And don't forget, I will always protect your Social Security, your Medicare, and your Medicaid. We're protecting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and I always will. I'd like now to invite SBA Administrator Jovita Carranza, who's doing a fantastic job.
I actually do want to hear this because I'm planning on doing an instructional video on how to apply for that small business thing.
To say a few words about these vital initiatives, and then we'll get on to the attack of the virus itself. And please, if I might, Steve and Jovita.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Vice President, Secretary Mnuchin, Ivanka Trump, and all who I have been working closely with in this effort.
Oh, God.
Small business is the backbone of the American economy, and the President has put the nation's 30 million small businesses front and center in the response effort, and we are working hard to get money to them quickly. This is an unprecedented effort by this administration to support small businesses, and we know that there will be challenges in the process. Secretary Mnuchin and I are working in tandem to ensure that feedback from our partners is being heard and implemented. The private and public sector must work closely together to ensure that small businesses and their workers across the country are put first. This administration believes wholeheartedly that if you are a small business, you are a critical part of the economic fabric of this country, and your viability is critical to the economic well-being of your employees. At SBA, we are working around the clock to support small businesses, ensuring that we are prioritizing emergency capital for small businesses that are suffering economic harm as a result of this unprecedented situation. This relief will help stabilize the small business sector by providing businesses with the financial resources they need to keep their workers employed and keep up with their day-to-day operating expenses. Today, I want to ensure that small businesses all over the country know about the Paycheck Protection Program and how they can benefit from this. Simply put, the Paycheck Protection Program is to help keep employees on payroll and small businesses open. SBA will forgive the portion of the loan that is used toward job retention and certain other expenses.
Right.
We are working closely with lenders so that businesses can go directly to their local lenders. Paycheck Protection Program is in addition to substantial work that the SBA has and will continue to do to help small businesses, including providing advances on SBA disaster loans and forgiving existing SBA loan payments over the next 6 months. Additional details on these critically important programs can be found at sba.gov, and we will be updating these resources regularly. Our hearts go out to those affected by this terrible virus. Our communities around the country are stepping up, and we will get through this together. At SBA, we know that every phone call, email, or application submitted has a small business owner their employees, and the communities they support are on the other side. Our most important objective is to allow small businesses to keep their employees on board and keep their businesses viable through this unprecedented disruption. I want to reiterate the importance of patience in this process as we work together to ensure that businesses are able to access needed credit. We will continue working around the clock as we've done with our federal and private sector partners, expanding capacity and working to make our systems as robust as possible to meet the needs. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, very good. Thank you.
Oh, no, not Mnuchin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Jovita. Mr. President, you've made clear to us we now need to execute. We need to get money to small business and American workers, and that's what we're doing. The SBA and Treasury committed to get this program up and running tomorrow, and when Jovita says people working around the clock, we had both teams working till 4 o'clock in the morning and start working again today. We've heard feedback from lenders, community banks, regional banks, and we spent the last 24 hours making this system even easier. So this will be up and running tomorrow. I encourage all small businesses that have 500 or fewer people, please contact your lenders. Any FDIC institution will be able to do this, any credit union, existing SBA lenders, and fintech lenders. You get the money, you'll get it the same day. You use this to pay your workers. Please bring your workers back to work. If you've let them go, you have 8 weeks plus overhead. This is a very important program. I'm pleased to announce we are going to raise the interest rate on these loans. And again, the interest rate is paid for as part of the program. The borrower doesn't have to pay this to 1%. We had announced it was going to be 50 basis points. We've heard from some smaller community banks that their deposit costs, even though the government's borrowing at 3 or 4 basis points, this is on average a 90-day loan. To make this attractive for community banks, we've agreed to raise the interest rate. Again, I encourage everybody, take out the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm also pleased to report the economic impact payments. I had previously said this would take us 3 weeks. I'm pleased to report that within 2 weeks, the first payments will be direct deposit.
Well, remember, it's been a week already.
Account. And as the president said, last night the president authorized me to say that anybody that has Social Security recipients won't need to file a new tax return, and we'll have that. If we don't have your direct deposit information, we'll be putting up a web portal so that you can put that up. It is a very large priority. The president has made clear we want to get this money quickly into your hands. I'm also pleased to report that we continue to work closely with the Federal Reserve. We're in the process of designing a new facility that we call the Main Street Lending Facility. We're also looking at facilities for state governments as well. And I'm also pleased to report the Employee Retention Credit. It's up and running. The first $10,000 of wages, you get a 50% credit. That's $5,000 per person. And for everyone who's kept someone, you can immediately get that money. You can deduct it from what you owe the IRS immediately. If you don't owe us money, you'll get a refundable tax credit. So that is up and running. I'm also pleased to report we have the program up and running. We're taking applications from the airlines, from the cargo companies, and from national security companies. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Steve. For Jovita or Steve, any questions, please?
Yes. Mr. Secretary, Chase Bank sent a letter to its business clients today saying that they don't have the necessary guidance from the SBA, from the Treasury Department, to be able to accept loan applications starting tomorrow. The need is clearly enormous, but at least one major bank says they're not fully empowered yet to be able to help their customers.
Well, as I spoke to all the CEOs yesterday, I had a conference call with them. We got very good input from them on what they needed. As I said, people were working till 4 o'clock. I believe we just put up the Federal Register with the new guidelines for lenders. I've been assured that the banks will be in the process starting tomorrow. Now, again, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we committed that this will be available tomorrow, and I encourage all companies Go to SBA.com, go to Treasury.gov. You can see the information you need immediately.
But it was
Just
SBA.gov.
to follow up with the small business owners, a number of them saying that they were on that conference call and that there's a tremendous power struggle going on between the Treasury and SBA, and that it's over process and forms is what they tell me, and that lenders are actually opting out because they can't make enough money to even service the loans. So how are you going to make sure these small business owners get the capital they need to survive right now?
Good question.
So first of all, I can assure you, Jovita's here. Jovita used to work for me as the treasurer. There's no power struggle. Jovita and our team, as I said, worked together till 4 o'clock in the morning, started working at 7 o'clock again. We've made the form simpler, and I can assure you at 5 points, I've told these bankers they should take all their traders and put them in the branches. So there'll never be another opportunity to earn 5 points on a 90-day fully government guaranteed loan.
And those checks right into direct deposit, IRS now saying it could take 4 to 5 months. You're saying 2 weeks.
Let me be clear. I don't know where let me be clear. I don't know where you're hearing these things. I told you this would be 3 weeks. I'm now committing to 2 weeks.
1 week later, he says so we've got 2 weeks to go from the 3 weeks, right?
The first money won't be in people's account.
Just to follow up on that, I think the question is not about the first checks for folks who have direct deposit. Sounds like those will go out pretty quickly. The question is then for folks who don't have direct deposit, and there was a staff memo that was released by the House Ways and Means Committee today saying that that process could take up to 5 weeks. That takes you to mid-August. Is that how long it's going to take?
That is not going to take
5 weeks is not mid-August.
Again, let me just say, when
5 months.
Obama sent out these checks, it took months and months and months. I am assuring the American public they need the money now. What we're going to do is, again, if we have your information, you'll get it within 2 weeks. If you Social Security, you'll get it very quickly after that. If we don't have your information, you'll have a simple web portal. You'll upload it. If we don't have that, we'll send you checks in the mail.
How many checks can you process a week, though? How many checks can you...
Again, we can process a lot of checks, but we don't want to send checks. In this environment, we don't want people to get checks. We want to put money directly into their account.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This is for, I guess, both you and the administrator. There have been some anecdotal reports that business people trying to get access to the online site to submit the applications. The website's been crashing. I've heard of webinars going offline because there's just too many people on them. So how are you guys going to be ready, tomorrow to get these loans out?
We've brought in a lot of external resources at SBA and us.
Understand, they're going to be ready tomorrow for you to fill out a form. He's not saying they're getting loans out tomorrow. He's saying at some point we'll be able to do it same day.
It's going to be up and running. Now, let me just be clear. That doesn't mean everybody is going to get their loan tomorrow.
Like I said.
The system will be up and running. We encourage people over the next week, sign up. You can go on, right now, you can go on the web, see what information you need. Very simple process.
Mr. Secretary, on a separate subject, have you been in touch with Leader McConnell and Speaker Pelosi about their differences right now about another stimulus package?
I've spoken to the leader. I've spoken to the speaker. I've spoken to the president constantly. When the president's ready and thinks we should do the next stage, we're ready. The president's talked about the issue of infrastructure since the campaign. I think that's a big priority for him. And again, if we run out of money on the small business program, we'll be back right away to Congress to get this increased.
Does the unemployment numbers today increase the urgency of doing a phase 4?
Well, let me just say, we're going through something that we've never done before, where the government has shut down big parts of the economy because of health reasons. Our economy was in great shape. Our companies were in great shape. There are 3 ways that Americans are going to be protected. For small business, they'll get paid by their business through this program. The direct deposit. There's also enhanced unemployment. So we realize, unfortunately, there are a lot of companies that, because they aren't in business over a short period of time, again, we're working with the states on enhanced unemployment. And as soon as the medical professionals and the president give the all clear, we're going to have a ton of liquidity. We have about $6 trillion. This has never been done between us and the Fed to put into the economy to support American workers and American business.
Secretary, in addition to the jobless numbers we saw today, phase 3 was signed before the social distancing guidelines were extended for another month. So what additional relief are you going to give to Americans as they stay out of work for all these extra weeks? I mean, what are you waiting for?
Well, designing this program, we thought that we had liquidity for about 10 weeks, and that's what we've designed. And again, I think the president's been very clear. If we need to go back to Congress to support the American economy and American workers, we will be doing that.
Mr. Secretary.
Secretary Mnuchin, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has formed a select committee to oversee the distribution of recovery funds, and she says she wants to make sure that those funds are wisely and efficiently spent. Do you think that select committee is something that's necessary?
I don't. I mean, you know, both parties wanted us to have oversight, wanted us to have transparency. We have full transparency. We have a oversight committee that the speaker gets to pick someone, the leader gets to pick someone. I believe there's 5 people on it. And again, that committee will review the money that we're spending. And again, we support full transparency. Taxpayers should understand how we're going to support this economy and jobs.
Mr. Secretary, Senator Murkowski has asked you to consider providing loans to energy companies under the CARES Act, the Phase 3 bill. What are your thoughts on that? Would you consider providing those loans to energy companies?
So thank you, and let me clarify. I have very limited ability to do direct loans out of the Treasury. I can do them for passenger airlines, cargo airlines, contractors, and national security companies.
How convenient.
Outside of that, we work with the Federal Reserve to create broad-based lending facilities, which we will do. So our expectation is the energy companies, like all our other companies, will be able to participate in broad-based facilities, whether it's the corporate facility or whether it's the Main Street facility, but not direct lending out of the Treasury.
A question for clarity about the direct payments to Americans. For those folks who don't have bank accounts, who don't have direct deposit information on file with the IRS, how long would they have to wait for their check?
From today.
Well, for people who don't have direct deposit, again, we'll have an easy way they put it up. We can, on a rolling basis, I think, you know, within a couple of days when they give it to us, we'll send the money out. We do realize there are people who are underbanked. And again, we're working with all the digital companies, prepaid debit cards. We're working with all of them to make sure we have a process that every American gets their money quickly. This money does people no good if it shows up in 4 months, and we will deliver on that promise.
So quickly is a matter of weeks then, perhaps, not months.
Quickly is a matter of weeks and not months. That's correct.
Would you consider a moratorium on...
Go ahead.
Mr. Secretary, one area where you can make direct loans is to the airlines. How much do you expect that the Treasury Department and the federal government will be involved in overseeing the operations of airlines as it pertains to which routes get cut back, how much they operate, what
Good
they
question.
do about their employees, and the like?
So there are very strict requirements that's built into the bill. Again, this was a bipartisan requirement. One, anything we do with the airlines, they have to maintain substantially all of their employees. So again, any money that we provide them will go to pay their employees. We're going to be working with the Secretary of Transportation. There are requirements to maintain certain routes. So again, we have a very clear process. We've hired 3 outside advisors, will be financial advisors, and 3 law firms. Will be releasing that information shortly. And I want to thank them. They're all working for basically very, very little money. They couldn't work for free, so they've agreed to basically work for what they would sign up to work for charitable organizations. So again, no big fees to bankers. We got a great team of 3 lawyers and 3 financial advisors that will assist us.
Mr. Secretary, just to follow up on that, will you give us a list of the names of those people who are advising you when you release the information?
Of course we will. We'll give you the names as well as the contracts. So again,
names right now other than BlackRock?
So again, I'm happy to announce it. We have the PJT Partners, okay, is going to do the passenger airlines. Moelis and Company is going to do the cargo and contractors, and Perella Weinberg.
Guys, there is a hell of a lot of money being made on this virus right now.
We'll announce shortly that we'll be working in each one of those sectors. And again, let me just be clear. We need to get this done quickly. The airlines need money. We're going to work very closely with the Department of Transportation and get this done quickly. We've actually already received contracts from a lot of the people. Again, there's guidance up on the web. Full transparency, we've asked for applications.
Secretary, on the airline issue again, Speaker Pelosi and others have said that the government taking stakes in those airlines should not be a condition for the federal government to provide payroll support specifically. What's your response to that?
I spoke to the Speaker last night about that. This was something that was highly negotiated between the Republicans and the Democrats. The president was personally involved in this. He was on the phone with us many times. Mitch McConnell, Mark.
Look at how annoyed Trump is getting that it's just Mnuchin talking.
There is a specific line in the bill that says that the secretary, meaning me, will determine proper compensation. So this is not a bailout for the airlines. And I will be working, once we get our advice from our financial advisors, we get the applications from the airlines, I'll be working very closely with the president, and we'll make sure that we strike the right balance, not a bailout. Taxpayers get compensated, but these airlines, these are national security issues. We want to keep our airlines intact.
Mr. Secretary, just more broadly, perhaps for the administrator, if not for you as well, some small businesses, restaurant owners, for example, are finding that laying off their employees so that they can start collecting unemployment is better both for them as business owners and for their workers. What incentives do they have right now to keep their employees on the payroll if no one's coming into their restaurants?
Well, the incentive that you have, and we want American business to be kept intact. The incentive is these are loans that turn into grants. So if you're a business owner and you're a restaurant, you can hire your people back. You get money for their medical. You keep them on the medical plan. You get money for your rent. You get money for your electricity. So you're motivated. We want you to have a business that you can reopen quickly when it's appropriate. So this doesn't cost the business owners anything. You know, when people talk about, I can't imagine any American worker who had a job, is offered to keep their job, isn't going to want to have it. And let me just be clear, we've also talked about this unemployment issue. You can only get unemployment if you don't have a job. So unemployment is intended for those people that are some of the mid-size or larger businesses, and we're very sympathetic to this, that these companies can't afford. And for those people, the enhanced unemployment will be a significant benefit. But
Not
we want to
really
make sure
answering the question,
50% of the American workforce is small businesses under 500 people. The president, the vice president, the administrator, and I want to make sure this part of the economy is ready and intact when we're ready to reopen.
Question for the administrator, if I may. Is there a certain category of small businesses that you're most concerned about? Restaurants?
Trump's swiveling weirdly about his waist.
It's a great question. We're concerned about every small business. There's 30 million small businesses that we're really focused on, and we're working feverishly to make sure that we can provide the available funds to them as quickly as possible. So it's 30 million small businesses, and the other businesses are being dealt with the PPP, with the Paycheck Protection. There was also the disaster, what we call it the injury or economic injury disaster loan. And then there was an advance associated with that particular program as well. So to answer your question, we're concerned about all businesses. And as the Secretary indicated, we're looking at employees being ready, not lost in this process. We want businesses to stay intact because they represent half the GDP. So if we spend $1 trillion to support 10 trillion or 11 trillion, I think that's a significant investment, and that's what we're focused on.
Is there a certain segment that you think is particularly vulnerable?
Hang on, I just want to make one comment for explanation because I want to make sure everybody out there understands this. If you're an independent contractor, if you're a sole proprietor, you're eligible for this as well. Now that program won't be up and running until next week, but again, this is a very broad definition of small business. So if you're an independent plumber, if you're an independent contractor, you're covered under this program. Slightly more complicated, you have to come into your bank and give them more information, but starting next week, that part of the program will be up and running. Also charities. Charities as well, very important. The Vice President and President make sure that we covered small charities in this.
Does that include churches and religious nonprofits?
It does, although there are some technical issues, but yes, it does include faith organizations.
Is that under that's under the SBA program?
This is under the PPP, yes, the new SBA program.
The Small Business Administration is going to give cash to churches.
Thank you, Steve. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so that begins right away, and they start handing out checks, and a lot of people are going to have their businesses built back up quickly, I hope. And we'll see. Complicated, big, small business is actually big business. So I thank them both.
Oh boy.
And please. Good. We have some great gentlemen. Let me see. Great gentlemen. That's correct. Thank you very much. Today, my administration is also issuing new guidelines to protect elderly Americans who remain the most vulnerable. By now, nursing homes should have suspended the entry of all medically unnecessary personnel. Today, we're further recommending that all nursing home facilities assign the same staff to care for the same group of residents consistently to minimize any potential spread. And we're also urging facilities to designate separate areas for healthy and sick residents. And this is a practice that we probably will be recommending into the future long after the enemy is gone, this particular enemy is gone. We're also making every effort to provide relief to our great veterans. We take very good care of our veterans. At my direction, Secretary Wilkie will use any authority at his disposal to extend deadlines for benefits and to postpone debt collections. We're now conducting well over 100,000 coronavirus tests per day. It's over 100,000 tests a day. And these are accurate tests, and they're moving rapidly, which is more than any other country in the world, both in terms of the raw number and also on a per capita basis, the most. The FDA has also authorized the first coronavirus antibody test developed by Cellex, a key step that will help identify people who have recovered and to understand their immune response and their immune system. Moments ago, I directed Secretary Azar and Acting Secretary Wolf to use any and all available authority under the Defense Production Act to ensure that domestic manufacturers have the supplies they need to produce ventilators for patients with severe cases of COVID-19. You know what that is, right? Become a very famous term. COVID.
At some point, this happens every one of these.
General Electric, Hillrom, Medtronic, ResMed, Royal Philips, and Vyaire Medical overcome obstacles in the supply chain that threaten the rapid production of ventilators. We have over 100,000 being built right now or soon to be started. We anticipate issuing more orders under the Defense Production Act in the very near future, in addition to the one that I've just signed against 3M for face masks. We just signed a element of the act against 3M. And hopefully they'll be able to do what they are supposed to do. Just spoke to Mary Barra of General Motors, and she said they're very soon going to be ready to start production of the ventilators. They have a lot of ventilators that they've committed to build, and they'll be starting very, very quickly. FEMA continues to deliver resources to areas most affected by the virus, including New York. On top of the 3,000 beds we're already providing to the Javits Center, the Department of Defense is adding another 48 ICU beds. Governor Cuomo has asked that this facility go, and it's a big, beautiful facility, it be converted to a COVID hospital. And we hadn't done that yet. We hadn't thought in terms of doing that, but their real demand is for that. And we had meetings on it with the task force. We had meetings with the military. And I've decided to say, yes, I'm going to do that I will be signing and agreeing to a yes answer, so that we will be doing that, and also we will be staffing it. So the federal government is doing a lot of things that wasn't anticipated that it do. This is a 2,500 and or 2,900 can easily be set up hospital built in Javits Center. And so we're going to be converting that to a COVID-19 hospital. And it's going to be staffed by the military and by the federal government. And based on the fact that I agreed to that, we had two other facilities that were likewise asking for it, and that would be in Louisiana and also in Dallas, and we'll be doing those. We spoke to the governor of Louisiana, spoke to the governor of Texas, and we've told them that we will be staffing those hospitals again above and beyond, but that's okay. We have to do that. In addition, the U.S. NS Comfort is docked in New York to accept patients. That is a non-COVID. To date, FEMA has delivered more than 4 million N95 mask respirators. And think of that, 4 million. Don't forget, we're a secondary source. The states are doing it, and we're backing them up, but we've gotten 4 million N95 respirators, 1.8 million surgical masks, 460,000 face shields, 1.4 million gloves, and 4,400 ventilators just to the city and to the state of New York. And some of them now are being sent. I spoke with both Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio a little while ago, and some of them are being sent to the city. All of America stands with the people of New York in this time of need. It's definitely a hot spot, but we have other hot spots also, and we're taking care of them very, very strongly, very powerfully. We have the finest people in the world in those locations. And
I think I just got bingo.
Not only acted early, but acted quickly, professionally. There's no people like this. Doctors, nurses, first responders, and other healthcare providers who want to help New York at this critical time should visit website nyc.gov/help-now. nyc.gov/help-now. They need help now. They need people to help them. We have great facilities, and we've built some brand new facilities, big ones, but we need help. We need help for professional people. So if you're in an area that isn't so affected, and you're a doctor, a nurse, a healthcare worker, please get to that website, and we would really appreciate your help. New York City needs it. Louisiana, by the way, needs it. Michigan needs it. Whatever you can do, those are very strong hotspots. They need help. In recent weeks, as the virus has spread and economic hardship has followed, we have seen Americans unite with incredible selflessness and compassion. I want to remind everyone here in our nation's capital, especially in Congress, that this is not the time for politics, endless partisan investigations.
You can tell he really means it, right?
Have already done extraordinary damage to our country in recent years. You see what happens. It's witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt. And in the end, the people doing the witch hunt have been losing, and they've been losing by a lot. It's not any time for witch hunts. It's time to get this enemy defeated. Conducting these partisan investigations in the middle of a pandemic is a really big waste of vital resources, time, attention. And we want to fight for American lives, not waste time and build up my poll numbers, because that's all they're doing, because everyone knows it's ridiculous. So we want to focus on the people of this country, even the people of the world. We're going to be able to help them, because right now, as an example, we're building so many ventilators, very, very hard to build, but we're building thousands of them. And a lot of them will be coming at a time when we won't need them as badly, because it takes time, very complex, very expensive. And we'll be able to help outside of our country. We think we'll be able to help. That's something that you cannot easily
understand. Ventilators are being rationed in the United States right now. He's talking about sending them somewhere else.
And affection. There's no earthly force more powerful than the patriotic pride that stirs in our hearts, and that is so true. It's incredible the job that everybody's been doing, everybody. They don't sleep, they don't go to bed. Sometimes they get nothing. Said to somebody recently on the task force, how many hours sleep have you gotten over the last couple of days? The answer was none. In one Massachusetts neighborhood, citizens come out of their homes each night at 8 o'clock from their porches, and they sing God Bless America. Others have joined in, spreading from house to house, down one street, up to the next, until their little town with a spirit of patriotism and reminding all Americans that we're all in this together. We'll fight together, and we will win together. We're going to win this.
Wonder what town that is.
Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to step out. We have a meeting on this subject, and I'm going to step out just for a few moments. I'll be right back. We'll answer some questions.
What?
But you have some very hardworking people who have
a few moments,
led by Vice President Mike Pence, head of the task force, and then Jared Kushner is going to say a few words.
Are you kidding me?
Polovchek, Peter Navarro,
Kushnick.
Dr. Birx, and myself. I'll be right back. So I'll see you in a little while. I did take a test. It just came out. This is from the White House physician. You may have it. Just came out. I just took it this morning. And I took it. It took me literally a minute to take it. And it took me, I guess it was 14 or 15 minutes. I went to work. I didn't wait for it, but he said it took 14 minutes or something to come up with a conclusion. And it said the president tested negative for COVID-19. So that's the second one. I think I took it really out of curiosity to see how quickly it worked and fast it worked, and it's a lot easier. I've done them both. And the second one is much more pleasant, Jeff. I can tell you that. Much more pleasant. So I'll be back in a little while. And Mike, please take over.
What a
Thank you.
weird press
Thank you all
conference.
very much. I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
Thank you, Mr.
Kushner,
President.
we've got to hear from.
The White House Coronavirus Task Force met today, but earlier in the day, the President convened all the key elements of our supply chain team in the Oval Office for an update on the progress that we have been making, working literally around the clock to make sure that our healthcare workers, the people on the front lines, have the personal protective equipment and also the ventilators to be able to meet this moment. And today you're going to hear from the people that are literally working each and every day to make that happen. Dr. Deborah Birx is also with us. She'll reflect in a few moments on the progress that we're making analyzing the data. Each and every day we're looking county by county, state by state, consulting with governors and local health officials. At the present moment, more than 1.3 million tests have been performed, and as you all are aware, some 236,000 Americans have tested positive for the coronavirus, with now the losses over 5,000 Americans, and our hearts are with their families. Beyond that, we have been focusing not just on ensuring the testing is occurring, but that the supplies are flowing. As the President just announced, he made a decision today to deploy thousands of N95 masks directly to New York City's public hospitals, and our team will speak about that in just a moment. And also, the President took the unprecedented step to direct the Department of Defense to use military healthcare personnel to operate all COVID facilities at the Javits Center in New York, at the Convention Center in New Orleans, and at the Convention Center in Dallas. We informed each of the governors of those states today that at their request, we were making those military medical personnel available to operate in all COVID facility. But we would emphasize to people in that community who believe you've been impacted or have contracted the coronavirus, contact your local healthcare provider. We anticipate in the New York area that your local healthcare provider will make the decision whether you are transferred to the Javits Center, and in all cases simply look to the guidance of your local governors about how best to receive the care that every American is entitled to have. Beyond that, let me say that we have been working through FEMA's acquisition process not only to deploy but to gather up personal protective equipment. And in just a few moments, you will hear from Admiral John Polovchek about the extraordinary progress that we have made in deploying not just the strategic national stockpile, but also in identifying on the commercial marketplace around America and around the world literally millions of N95 masks, surgical gowns, gloves, protective equipment. And at this point, we've distributed some 7,600 ventilators. And you'll hear today specifically about the states that have received those ventilators. This team has truly acted in an inspiring way and literally is working with dozens and dozens of people at the FEMA Stabilization Task Force to make sure that we are leaving no stone unturned to find the supplies we need. Let me also say today you're going to hear from Jared Kushner,
great
senior advisor to the President of the United States.
Disaster.
Someone that the White House Coronavirus Task Force directed to work with FEMA on supply chain issues. And in recent weeks, he's been leading a working group in conjunction with FEMA that literally has identified millions of medical supplies around the nation.
Can you imagine?
And around the world, and we're grateful for his efforts and his leadership. Finally, you'll hear from Peter Navarro, who will explain the action the President took today using the Defense Production Act.
Horrible
But
act.
as you hear details today about medical supplies that have been distributed, those that have been purchased, those that we're making available, ventilators distributed to hospitals, and those that are available, let me just remind every American that you can make a difference in ensuring that every patient has the treatment that they deserve, every healthcare provider, every doctor and nurse's assistant has the protective gear to provide the care that you would want your family to have by putting into practice the President's 30 days to slow the spread. I mean, we want you to take to heart the President's coronavirus guidelines for America. First, to protect your own health, to protect the health of your family, to protect the health of your community. We know so many people are asymptomatic, and people that literally don't know they have the coronavirus but have the ability to infect others. We want you to put these guidelines into practice: social distancing, using a drive-through at a restaurant, washing your hands on a regular basis. But as we focus today on supplies, make no mistake about it, every American can make sure that our healthcare workers, and more importantly, Americans that are struggling with coronavirus, have the equipment to support their treatment by putting these principles into practice. Because the fewer Americans that contract the coronavirus, the fewer Americans will have to enter our healthcare system. And that'll continue to preserve the capacity in our healthcare economy. So we thank the millions of Americans who've responded in the first 2 days of 30 days to slow the spread. And I'm just absolutely confident that in the days ahead, every American's going to do their part for your health, your family's health, the health of your community, and to ensure the strength and vitality of the greatest healthcare system in the world. With that, let me introduce Jared Kushner to speak about the work that he's been doing.
Really adds a
working
depraved
with FEMA
element to this.
on ensuring a strong supply chain to meet this moment. Jared?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you for your great leadership on the task force. And thank you to Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci as well. It's been an honor working with you these past few weeks. When the Vice President first asked me to help on the task force with different tasks, I asked the President what he expected from the task force and how I can best serve him and the task force. What the President asked is that all of the recommendations that we make be based on data. He wanted us to be very rigorous to make sure that we were studying the data, collecting data. A lot of things in this country were happening very quickly, and we wanted to make sure that we were trying to keep updating our models and making sure that we were making informed decisions and informed recommendations to him based on the data that we were able to collect and put together. The President wanted to make sure that we had the best people doing the best jobs and making sure that we had the right people focused on all the things that needed to happen to make sure that we can deliver in these unusual times for the American people. The President also instructed me to make sure that I break down every barrier needed to make sure that the teams can succeed. This is an effort where the government is doing things that the government doesn't normally do. We're stretching, we're acting very quickly, and the President wants to make sure that the White House is fully behind the different people running the different lines of effort to make sure that we get everything done in a speed that the President demands. The President also wanted us to make sure we think outside the box, make sure we're finding all the best thinkers in the country, making sure we're getting all the best ideas, and that we're doing everything possible to make sure that we can keep Americans safe and make sure we bring a quick end to this in the best way possible and balance all the different aspects that need to be thought of while we do this. This truly is a historic challenge. We have not seen something like this in a very, very long time, but I am very confident that by bringing innovative solutions to these hard problems, we will make progress. Today, we were briefing the President earlier. He asked me to come out and talk a little bit about what we've been doing on the supply chain task force, which Admiral Plevchuk has been leading. And what he's been very impressed by is the way that we've been resourceful to find product all over the world, all over the country, and we are finding ways to solve the different problems. The President's been very, very hands-on in this. He's really instructed us to leave no stone unturned.
For people joining us and confused what's going on, this is the President's son-in-law, who is, I guess, now a major player in fighting the invisible scourge.
Is running low on critical supply. He instructed me this morning. I called Dr. Katz, who runs the system, asked him which supply was the most supply he was nervous about. He told me it was the N95 masks. I asked what his daily burn was, and I basically got that number. Called up Admiral Polovchek, made sure we had the inventory. We went to the president today, and earlier today the president called Mayor de Blasio to inform him that we were going to send a month of supply to the New York Public Hospital System to make sure that the workers on the front line can rest assured that they have the N95 masks that they need to get through the next month. We'll be doing similar things with all the different public hospitals that are in the hotspot zones and making sure that we're constantly in communications with the local communities. One thing I will say, just based on data, is that we've been getting a lot of data from different governors and from different mayors and from different cities. One thing I've seen FEMA do very, very well over the last week or so is now we're getting real-time data from a lot of cities, people who have requests for different products and supplies. A lot of them are doing it based on projections, which are not the realistic projections. The projections change every day as we see the cases, as we see the impacts of the Stop the Spread effort that this task force recommended and the president has been pushing forward. So I do think that we'll see that hopefully there'll be impact of that, and the task force has been working very hard through the FEMA group with Admiral Polovchek to make sure that we're getting the supplies to people before they run out and making sure that we're doing it in a proper way. I'd like to just introduce Admiral Polovchek, who before coming to this, I guess still is, he's the Vice Director for Logistics for the Joint Staff. I got a call from one of the senators saying, well, why don't you put a great military person in charge of the logistics and the supply chain and the Defense Production Act? And I said, well, the president already did that. This is the best man that we have in the country for supplies and logistics. He joined the task force 13 days ago over at FEMA, and he's built a team really at the direction of the Vice President that includes people from FEMA, OMB, the FDA, HHS, the White House, and from everywhere else. And what they've done over the last 13 days has been really extraordinary. We've done things that the government has never done before, quicker than they've ever done it before. And what we're seeing now is we found a lot of supplies in the country. We've been distributing them where we anticipate there will be needs, and also trying to make sure that we're hitting places where there are needs. So I can tell you the people in the task force, they're working day and night. You've got a lot of people in the government. We recognize the challenge that America faces right now. We know what a lot of the people on the front lines are facing, the fear that they have, that they won't have the supplies they need, and our goal is to work as hard as we can to make sure that we don't let them down. So I just want to thank everybody, and with that I'll introduce Admiral Polovchek, who's doing an amazing job.
Jared Kushner's presence here is really sinister in some weird way.
Mr. Kushner, Mr. Vice President. So today I'm going to cover a couple items, five things. First thing I'm going to talk about is resources pushed out from the federal government. And then I'm going to talk about this air bridge, which you may have heard about. I'm going to talk about data. As you said, Mr. Kushner is absolutely right. We're trying to be data driven. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're trying to expand the industrial base here to meet this challenge. So the first thing I want to talk about is surgical masks. So you've quickly stated numbers here. So I'm about to go through several different slides to give you just scale and magnitude of federal resources that have been applied at the problem. So 27.1 million surgical masks pushed out to state governments. For N95 masks, 19.5 million N95 masks. And so if I was in a local hospital that was running short, I would look upward because the federal government has pushed out resources. So for protective gloves, 22.4 million pairs of protective gloves. For face shields, 5.2 million face shields. For ventilators, we have pushed to the states more than 7,600 ventilators, and I think as I was coming over here, that number's changed slightly. I think it's now 7,640. Given to these states, to the predominantly these states. So we wanted you to have some numbers. Now, as we've indicated, we had ventilators in the national stockpile. We pushed ventilators out. We're holding ventilators
to put to the point of need. But we're also buying ventilators, asking the industrial base who produces approximately, prior to COVID, approximately 30,000 ventilators a year. We are going to, over the next several months, by the end of June, work to acquire 100,000. And so one of the tools that we're going to, I can anticipate needing, we've already executed, is all of those vendors that we're buying them from potentially will need help in their supply chains with their suppliers. We might rate orders, we might help them get ahead of others in that endeavor. So I think Mr. Navarro is going to talk a little bit more of that later. So let me talk about the air bridge. So it normally takes approximately 37 days to get from overseas, get product, load it, get it to the United States, and distribute it. That's about 37 days. So to prime the pump, so to speak, we have lined on an air bridge to get product here faster, working with our major suppliers as they work to fill orders to get more to healthcare workers now. We are working to align transportation to product. Now, one of the things we're also doing is the team that works for me are scouring the globe and finding pockets of personal protective equipment that might not otherwise be in the U.S. hospital supply chain. That is also going on these flights. 6 completed and a number scheduled. 28 flights scheduled here in the near future. We are working towards, some days we'll have 1 flight, some days there might be 2 flights, multiple flights over the next coming days. These 28 are, as far as I can see, out to a couple of weeks. Then again, matching product, 2 flights to create volume in the supply chain here faster than the 37 days. I'm just going to leave that up as I talk about a few other items. So let's talk about New York City and the public health hospitals. I believe they're called New York City Health and Hospitals. President directed, as I speak, there are pallets being formed, truck being loaded. I gave an address in New York City here an hour or 2 ago, and one of our distributors is making that happen, and that delivery will happen tomorrow. On the data front, this is almost unprecedented. This is a commercial supply chain with 6 to 7 major distributors of health equipment. We brought them all in, and we said we need to make informed decisions, and we are going to help make informed allocation decisions. So within a matter of days, feeding from their business systems, their enterprise resource-like systems, I brought on board a tool, a supply chain tower, that the DoD was using to manage a supply chain for a very complex weapon system. Their data goes into a data lake. We have a tool to be able to use their data and see it. I can tell what product is coming in, what their orders are, what they're filling, what they're not filling, and see the volume in the supply chain and understand what they're doing down to the county level. We're working to get it potentially down to the hospital level. So this 200 and some odd N95 respirators, we took a look in there in the supply chain, and we said we have the volume to go do that. I called the distributor, and they're making that happen. We anticipate, as the hotspots around the country, we anticipate these vendors at our direction helping them allocate product to the right place at the right time.
This is all a little weird.
So if I talk finally about expanding the industrial base. So the vice president was at Walmart the other day. We told him, I want to get in this game. how do I do that? So I got the call. We provided them specifications. And Walmart is going to use their suppliers to cut fabric, make gowns, sew product. But that's not always the case. We have lots of folks that want to help. I believe you will see in the coming days the use of the Defense Production Act in creative ways to help people that are not doing this today to do it. We have essentially leads. The number yesterday was 210. I believe it probably grew today that we are working with to find how each one of those might need help to get in the game that's not in the game to increase the throughput through the healthcare market. Again, the president gave me one task: get more to our healthcare workers now.
I would wrap.
And I took that to heart because I have, not that I don't need that from the president to that direction to move out, but I have family in New York. My sister's a nurse practitioner in a Westchester hospital. And my niece is a nurse on a Long Island hospital. And I have other healthcare professionals in the family. So I have skin in this game. And the president asked me to get more of the healthcare workers. I'm going to get more of the healthcare workers. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Navarro. The 200,000 is going out as we
very
speak.
specific about that.
It'll be delivered tomorrow.
Let me be clear on that, if I can. What Jared announced, what the Admiral just unpacked, is that pallets are being loaded right now to send 200,000 N95 masks to New York City.
Good clarification. No one knew what was being said.
To the public health warehouse in New York City.
All the healthcare workers, help is on the way.
Based on the tools and the data you have available to you, where is the logjam? Where has it been? How have you identified that? Because as you say, all this, millions more PPE is going out the door. As you well know, the frontline medical workers
I would answer you this way. We put up a lot of numbers. I said that if you're in a hospital and you're not seeing PPE, I would look up to the state level first.
They're blaming the states.
They can't get the medical equipment that they need.
And the reason for that is because according to governors, and also
I don't think this guy's really prepared for getting hammered.
numbers up there about what is going to the private sector, can you tell us what percentage of the supplies on these large cargo planes are going to private companies versus FEMA versus the states?
So FEMA's
80%?
This product that we're moving is primarily commercial product that would enter the commercial system and be distributed through financial business transactions between hospitals and these distributors.
So just to clarify, that explains why states say they're bidding like they're on eBay, because the supplies are going to the private sector.
Pence is going to have to say we need Navarro to speak. He's going to have to pull him.
That's normally how things work, right? So I'm not here to disrupt a supply chain. So look, these 6 distributors, 6, 7, they have 600 to 700 warehouses. They have trucks to go to the hospital door every day. We're bringing product in. They're filling orders for hospitals, nursing homes, like normal. I'm putting volume into that system. I would say that we have the data now. So we put together this data element over the last, 13 days.
Who's feeling confident?
Get the
here?
people in, look at the problem, build this. I am now seeing truth about what's in the supply chain, and I would say that there's been some abnormal behavior. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Admiral.
What?
House Oversight Committee Democrats say that FEMA officials told them that the ventilators that the government has ordered won't be ready until June, which is well after the expected peak. Will the Defense Production Act memo signed today do anything to speed that up?
Yes, I will. Mr. Navarro will talk about that. We're online to receive several thousand ventilators in the month of April and several thousand more ventilators in the month of May, ramping up to a big number in June. Again, going from, an industry that produces
Trump's
about
back with a piece of paper.
30,000 annual to a very big number.
Are you confident that the system means the states with the greatest need are getting the supplies?
Yeah, so,
because a lot of governors are saying that they can't get what they need, and different states have more pressing urgency, obviously, depending on the case.
So we marry up, we're marrying up where CDC, where the demand for COVID is, to what's in the commercial system. We're providing that to the commercial system, and we are making allocations to those of most pressing need. 13 days, we now have the data. We now can make informed decisions. And so all of the I need, I now know the volume that has been happening and needs to be happening.
So, Admiral, with that, and Mr. President, I'd love for you to weigh in on this as well. You talk about, well, you alluded to the fact there is possibly some shady business going on, that the product is here in the United States.
And coming here.
Yes, and it is coming here. It's coming from China. It's in warehouses. It's being made here in the United States. It's in warehouses, but it's going to the highest bidder. So what can be done to keep those products here in the United States, not go overseas where companies are making a lot of money, and get it distributed to the
let's
most
keep it moving.
critical
Go to
places
Navarro.
here in the U.S. I would love to hear
This guy doesn't know.
from how's that being done, because doctors, I've talked to
Great.
surgeons on
Great
a regular
question.
basis.
Let me give you the bigger view of the DPA, and we'll directly address that. What we have essentially is a nation at war. We have a wartime president standing behind me. The Defense Production Act is one of the most powerful weapons this administration can use to fight the invisible enemy of the virus. When I spoke with you last week, I explained the 3 points of the compass DPA can be used to hit. The first one is mobilization of the industrial base. This can involve things like repurposing from, say, a distiller like Pernod Ricard, from liquor to hand sanitizer. It can also involve expansion of production, which is having Honeywell, which makes N95 masks, open a new factory in Smithfield, Rhode Island. With respect to the second point of the compass, allocation of resources, we have 2 issues there. If you look at the manufacturer itself, what you want to make sure is that the supply chain, which can go 7 tiers deep, has enough components in that supply chain so we can actually make what we need. And then once it's made, you also want to make sure that it goes to the right people. And then the third point of the compass, which addresses what you're talking about, is basically bustum, I call it, hoarding of critical or threatened materials. So let me walk through what the president did today in terms of a strong action, what we've done, the DPA across those 3 points. The first order President Trump signed was vigorous, swift. It was the GM order, which directed GM to make ventilators in Kokomo, Indiana in Trump time, which is to say as fast as possible. As the president mentioned, he spoke to Mary Barra today, the CEO of GM. That is moving forward at the same time as the Ford project is moving forward in Rawsonville, Michigan. And I've issued a challenge to those 2 companies, a la Ford versus Ferrari. This is Ford versus GM. Let's see who gets those ventilators out first. Now, the second point of the compass, which these 2 orders address today, is this allocation of resource issues. The ventilator companies themselves expressed concern that in this rush to build ventilators, there would be pressure on that supply chain. So what they requested that we do and the president do is to use the DPA to give this gentleman here, who's one of the strongest gentlemen in the world in terms of applying things, is to give him the ability to prioritize that supply chain for those ventilator manufacturers. And he will do things like give them what's called a DO rating in the defense procurement, which will allow them to get what they need. Now, the second order, which the president signed today, has to do with the other part of the equation, which is once they make the stuff, okay, where does it go to the right folks? And this is a 3M order. And
I hope you guys are realizing that this entire answer could have been 60 seconds and have communicated way more.
The production that 3M does around the world enough of it is coming back here to the right places. So what's going to happen with the signing of that order in Trump time is we're going to resolve that issue with 3M probably by tomorrow close of business, because we can't afford to lose days or hours, even minutes in this crisis.
What a mess.
Now, the third part of the compass, this third point there, this gets to the hoarding issue. The president stood up here with he's the commander-in-chief, but we have a sheriff in town too, Attorney General Barr. And he stood up here with Attorney General Barr, and Bill Barr said, I'm going to go out and bust them. And guess what? 3 days ago, DOJ went into a warehouse in Jersey, grabbed PPE. And the beauty of that, wasn't only seized, but within hours, it was turned around and given to healthcare professionals in New York and New Jersey. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful case of using the DPA. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow is the president's going to sign another order, which is in the works. This is interesting. There is a black market springing up, which you have described, where we're having people bid against each other. Brokers come in. They're bidding and bidding on all this different PPE. It's driving the price up. And guess what? You know where it's going? The domestic sources here are being exported. When President Trump heard about that, he said, that's not going to happen anymore under my watch. So tomorrow we're bringing that order, and what's going to do is it's going to empower Customs and Border Protection with the help of people like the Post Office and express mail consigners.
Post office might have to close in June because they got no money from stimulus. What is this guy on?
So we are going to crack down unmercifully. And I would say to the hoarders out there, the brokers who are trying to make money off the misery of people in this country or around the world, that's got to stop. And if you've got inventory, what you need to do is pick up a phone and not call somebody out around the world. You call FEMA and say, we got some stuff, we'll give it to you at a fair price, and be done with that, because that stuff has absolutely got to stop. So that's hang on.
You got to pull
So
this
that's what we're going to be looking for, and when we hear cases like this, we're going to aggressively issue order after order to crack down on it. Now, this is not my role to take a bunch of questions, but let me tell you one other thing before I leave the podium. It's a story which I'd love to share with you today, because this again illustrates one of the key principles of this president and this vice president, which is to wed the full force of the federal government with the full power of private enterprise. And just 2 days ago, we at the White House got an urgent SOS from the chief of police of the New York Police Department. And they are in a situation now, because of the strain on their resources, where personnel such as their homicide detectives were having to go on into houses and deal with COVID issues without protective gear. Now, the beauty of this president is, because of his leadership, we were able to solve that problem in 2 phone calls. Two phone calls. The first one went to Phoebe Novakovic at General Dynamics. Phoebe, can you call Tom Kennedy at Raytheon? I need you guys to basically scoop up all the Tyvek suits you can and find any gloves you can. This president, under his leadership, and the voluntary efforts and the pride and patriotism you talked about earlier, that we had 4,000 Tyvek suits delivered to the New York PD within 16 hours. That's a new record in Trump time. At the same time, a second phone call.
Can't believe this is a Boston guy. What an embarrassment.
And Laura Lane at UPS, they were on the same phone call. And I said, Tara, Laura, we got this issue. They need hand sanitizer. Literally, within 2 hours, we had 50-gallon drums, 6,000 gallons of hand sanitizer on a UPS truck heading up to the NYPD, and it probably arrived today with a promise from Pernod that they will continue to supply the NYPD throughout the course of this crisis. So this is a beautiful thing that America is rallying to. We are becoming a stronger, more united nation, and I couldn't be more proud of this president, this administration. These guys up here are doing a heck of a job organizing the supply chain. And my promise to you is that the president is going to use that DPA to make sure that the American people, particularly our healthcare professionals, get the PPE, the medicines, everything we need. So let me let me stop there. I don't think it's
Please.
my place here to field a bunch of questions.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay.
No. Don't let him answer questions.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Answer. You go ahead.
Okay.
Come here.
Oh God.
One of the things that this crisis has taught us, sir, is that we are dangerously over-dependent on a global supply chain. For our medicines, like penicillin, our medical supplies, like masks, and our medical equipment, like ventilators. We have
Elements.
right now, as we speak, over 50 countries have already imposed some forms of export restrictions in their country against the rest of the world. And what we're learning from that is that no matter how many treaties you have, no matter how many alliances, no matter how many phone calls, when push comes to shove, you run the risk as a nation of not having what you need. And if there's any vindication of the president's buy American, secure borders, and a strong manufacturing base philosophy, strategy, and belief, it is this crisis, because it underscores everything that we see there. So the Buy American order, which is going through process, would do a couple things. It would simply say, not during this crisis, because we don't want to disrupt anything. I want to be really clear about that. But going forward, after this is over, the VA, DOD, HHS, and this government buys American for essential medicines, our medical countermeasures, and the medical supplies and equipment we need. At the same time, it will deregulate so we can get the FDA and EPA to facilitate domestic manufacturing.
This is painful, guys.
And then innovate, because the key here is having advanced manufacturing on U.S. soil that can leapfrog other countries, so we don't have to worry about competing against cheap sweatshop labor, lax environmental regulations, different tax regimes, and the massive subsidies of foreign governments who are actually directly attacking our industrial base. So be patient with that, sir. The other priorities we have right now are the DPA and
This guy shouldn't
what
be
the
allowed
task
back.
force is doing. But if we learn anything from this crisis, it should be never again. Never again should we have to depend on
Trump.
the rest of the world for our essential medicines and countermeasures.
And by the way, we've cut them out also, to be honest. We've stopped orders going from certain places. And in a couple of places, like we had a big order going to Italy on important outfits and some ventilators, and it was going to Italy. They made the order a long time ago. And I said, you got to let it go. They had an order, and I could have cut it. Under the act, I could have cut it. I said, nope, you can't do that. You got to let it go. You know, they have big problems. We had an order going to Spain, and I said, let it go. I could have stopped it. I said, let it go. We're going to be fine. I said, let it go. So it works that way also. One other thing as to your question, oftentimes, and we've told this to the governors, Mike, we've been very strong on this, if you think there's bidding between federal government and state, let us know and we'll drop out immediately. Or you drop out and we lower the price.
Against each other.
No. If we're bidding against each other, I said find out who it is. And usually they know. Everyone knows. And we're notified, and we get notified, and we'll either drop out or they'll drop out. But we have another problem. There are 151 countries out there beyond the states. There are 151 countries that have this problem. And they're ordering too. It's really a mess. Now, in a little while, the hardest thing to get are the ventilators because they're, it takes a while to build them. And we have thousands of them being built right now. In a little while, they'll be worth about $5. But right now, they're very valuable. And we're going to have a lot of them being shipped. In fact, that's why General Motors called up before Mary. That's why others called up. 2 days ago, they called up that they're all in production. And they're starting to arrive in a week and a half, but there'll be a time when we're going to build stockpiles. By the way, the states should have been building their stockpile. We have almost 10,000 in our stockpile, and we've been building it, and we've been supplying it. But the states should be building. We're a backup. We're not an ordering clerk. We're a backup. And we've done an unbelievable job.
clerk.
Like, for instance, who ever heard of a governor calling up, sir, can you build us a hospital of 2,500 rooms? And we built it. Can you build us 4 medical centers? We built it. can you deliver a hospital ship with 1,000 rooms? And we did it. And we did it in Los Angeles, too. We've done an unbelievable job. These people, and thousands of people behind them. But we're a backup. Ideally, those hospitals would have had all this equipment. Ideally, those states should have had all this equipment, and I think they will the next time. You know, you heard the case where thousands of ventilators could have been had at a very inexpensive price 3 years ago, and a certain state decided not to exercise that right because they wanted to build a road or they wanted to build something else because it's big money. You're talking about, I think it was $1 billion, but you're talking about a lot of money for something that may never happen. Because normally on a ventilator, other than a pandemic or an epidemic, you wouldn't need anything like this. Hospitals have 3 ventilators, big hospitals, and they get by with it. And now they want thousands. I mean, they want thousands of ventilators. You call up a governor and they'll say, "Sir, could you send us 40,000 ventilators?" Nobody has ever heard of a thing like this. So they've done some job. Let me just tell you, when Secretary Mnuchin spoke, they want you to call not .com, but SBA.gov.
Told you at the time.
Okay, for the application and for information.
40 minutes later.
Okay, so it's SBA, small business, SBA.gov. Okay, if you don't mind. Yeah, let's go, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to follow up from a question yesterday regarding your administration's denial of the expansion of Obamacare's special enrollment period in the wake of this pandemic. In your own words, VP Pence gave a 5-minute non-answer, but people facing this pandemic illness and even worse, most experts say that having health care is critical to our nation's health and financial well-being.
Good question.
Can you assure Americans tonight that you will reopen Obamacare marketplace so that they can be covered in this time?
I thought he said he wasn't going to do it.
Well, we're doing better than that. Yeah,
crisis.
no, I understand the question. We're doing better than that. We're going to try and get a cash payment to the people, and we're working out the mechanics of that with legislature. So we're going to try and get them a cash payment because just opening it up doesn't help as much. So we're going to work it out. So we're going to try and get for that certain group of people, it's a certain group of people, a cash payment. Go ahead.
I really want to ask you about masks, but I also just wanted to follow up on a couple of hanging threads there. Just the question earlier about the bidding. What happens, though, when states are bidding against each other on those markets?
Well, they have that, and they have to work that out. What they should do is they should have, long before this pandemic arrived, they should have been on the open market just buying. There was no competition. You could have made a great price. The states have to stock up. It's like one of those things. They waited. They didn't want to spend the money because they thought this would never happen. And their shelves, in some cases, were bare. And by the way, in some cases, they weren't. They were beautifully serviced. They did a good job. But in some cases, their shelves were bare. So the best thing they can do is when times become normalized, and they will, hopefully soon.
The question is now when states are bidding against each other.
Because so much is being done right now in terms of protective gear, protective outfits. A lot's being done. It's going to be, within 6 months, it's going to be sold for the right price. They got to stack up for the next time. But we are doing that, and the Admiral has done a fantastic job. Senator Schumer wrote a letter today, and he says, you should put a military man in charge. I said, well, Chuck, if you knew a little bit more, we have one of the most highly respected people in the military, the Admiral. This is what he does, too, very professionally. And he's in charge, but Chuck didn't know that. Okay, Jeff, please.
Mr. President, you tweeted this morning about your call with Saudi Arabia's MBS.
Yeah.
We've had some people say that the figures that you cited between 10 million and 15 million barrels per day is not what they're agreeing to. Can you be more specific about what?
I don't know what they're agreeing to. I think they might agree to more than that. Look, Russia.
Did he tell you that, sir?
Russia, yeah, he did say that actually. Russia talked about 10 million barrels. Russia and Saudi Arabia are fighting over this, and as everybody knows, it's really killing an industry, hurting Russia badly, hurting Saudi Arabia badly.
Bingo.
I said, this is an easy one. It should be an easy one, and it may be 10, and it may be more than that. I was actually told it may be 10, as I told somebody before. It may be 10, and it may be more than that. Maybe it's 15. Maybe it goes up to 15, could be as high as 15. And, there's a tremendous oversupply right now. That industry was it was oversupplied before the virus. And when the virus came along, they lost 35, 40% of the world. And there's an unbelievable, you can't get a ship now. Every ship is loaded to the gills, sitting out someplace in the ocean. They're storage tanks. They're not even ships, they're storage tanks. So it would be great for Russia. It would be great for Saudi Arabia. I hope they make that deal, but that's what they told me. They said well, I think it'll be hopefully soon. I think hopefully they'll announce something soon. Now,
imagine bragging about raising oil prices.
Doesn't happen, I guess. In which case there's another alternative, but I'd rather not see that other alternative. I hope they can make a deal. They both want, I think they both want to make a deal. And they're both smart. They love their countries. They want to make a deal. It's good, but it's also good for the world if they do, because you save an industry. Yeah, please. Go ahead. Go ahead, in the back.
What do you mean by cash payments?
I'm going to let Mike, because we went over this very specifically.
Yeah,
and I'll
he has
let you
no
talk
idea.
about it, Mike,
That's
as you
so
responded
funny.
last time.
Right. Thank you, Mr. President. As I said yesterday, the President's put a priority on ensuring that no American has to worry about the cost of coronavirus testing, and we've been working every day
Non-answer.
to make sure that Americans don't have to worry about the cost of treatment. And at this point, the White House Coronavirus Task Force is working on a proposal for the President to use some of the $100 billion that we're making available to hospitals to compensate the hospitals directly for any coronavirus treatment that they provide to uninsured Americans. We're working out the details of that. The President will make a final decision tomorrow. We expect an announcement, but the President's made it very clear. We don't want any American to worry about the cost of getting a test.
Okay, that's an
or the
answer at
cost
least. It
of
might be a
getting
lie, but it's an
treatment.
answer.
And we've expanded coverage through Medicaid. We've expanded coverage through Medicare. Health insurance companies around the country, including Blue Cross, just today announced that all of their members will be waiving all co-payments on coronavirus treatment. But for those some 30-odd million uninsured Americans, the President has directed the Coronavirus Task Force to find a way to make sure that they know we will find a way to pay for your coronavirus treatment, and the President will be addressing that and announcing that tomorrow.
Mr. President, a point of clarification and then a follow-up question. Yesterday you said that you spoke to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis before he issued his stay-at-home order. Did you advise him to issue that order?
No, but I talked to him about it. And he wants to do what's right for the people of Florida. He's been a great governor. You could see that just by his popularity, which is extraordinary. We're proud
Terrible
of him.
governor.
He's done a fantastic job, and he made the decision. But we spoke before he made the decision, yes.
He had also said that he is considering putting people who are suspected of having coronavirus or who have tested positive for it in isolation centers, and that he could
That I
potentially use
haven't
hotels.
heard. No, that I haven't.
So he hasn't consulted with
I
you.
haven't heard that. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ebony Bowden from the New York Post. A few hours ago, Mayor de Blasio, the mayor of New York, said that New Yorkers leaving their homes should wear masks. They should also wear masks when they're with other people. Are you considering that kind of recommendation on a federal level? And if you are, how would you prevent a rush
Daily
on N95
question.
masks?
Well, I think they're going to be coming out with regulations on that, and if people want to abide by them, frankly, I don't think they'll be mandatory, because some people don't want to do that. But if people wanted, as an example on the masks, if people wanted to wear them, they can. If people wanted to use scarves,
I believe she's
which they
Australian,
have,
not
many
British,
people have
from
them,
the accent.
They can. In many cases, the scarf is better. It's thicker. I mean, you can, depending on the material, it's
No,
thicker.
but you want a
But,
tight
They
lattice.
can do that if they want. Now, a recommendation's coming out. We'll see what that recommendation is.
Any recommendations, sir?
But I will say this, they can pretty much decide for themselves right now.
Nationwide, and can I also
Nationwide.
nationwide, not just for hotspots, and then maybe this is best for Dr. Birx, but we've heard some differing guidance here. The WHO, even the Surgeon General have talked about various studies that show that masks, in addition to maybe not even being helpful to protecting people, may actually increase the rates of illness because people touch the masks, then they touch themselves.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about just the
All right,
evolution
maybe
of
I
the
will
thinking on
ask
this?
Dr. Birx. And you might mention that other point also.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So I hope you got from the conference today that we're triangulating data that we know from the case numbers, the testing numbers, the supply chain numbers to create an integrated picture so that we can really support hospitals in their needs. And I think that level of granularity is really critical. Secondly, I just want to make the point that we really applaud the governors that are looking at a whole of state or a whole of metro approach. And what do I mean by that? The United States, going into this, had about 160,000 ventilators across the United States and another 60 to 70,000 anesthesia machines. That's about 5 times what most of the European countries have. But it's a matter of distribution to need, and I really applaud the governors that are bringing together their public hospitals with their more private hospitals and their visibility across their state. Because what we tried to talk about yesterday is every state, every county is different, and that's why we're looking at it at that level of granularity. And as we move through this epidemic, the needs need to be very tailored to those counties and, frankly, those hospitals. I mean, there's a reason why the president and Mr. Kushner have been very much involved in finding out what the public hospitals need.
Can you imagine?
Why is that? Because the public hospitals sometimes have the weakest supply chain because they're often sometimes not as attractive to private sector distributors, or they may be too busy caring for the needs of patients to be really on top of their order forms and their supply chains. So really listening to the community that's at the front of this fight and getting feedback from those specific communities, no matter where they are, and listening to the frontline healthcare workers, because it's their reality that is important to all of us, whether you're the mayor or the governor or the federal government. And if they're saying they need something,
I think let me just introduce a question here. So when she says we have 5 times the ventilators that European countries have, is she talking about compared to an individual European country? Because if so, we have 340 million people. 5 times doesn't sound like a lot. Is she saying all of Europe combined? That would be a weird thing. Like, it's very opaque what it is that she's even asserting.
Happens. Now, you have to have very good data in order to be willing to work in that level of granularity. And that's what we've been working on to really develop that level of granularity to ensure that. So I just wanted to say one other thing about testing, just to give you the bottom line data of what we're seeing. We appreciate the groups who are reporting. Not everyone is reporting yet. And this is part of us trying to understand at a very granular level. We do have 2 states that do have 35% positives, and that's New York and New Jersey. So that confirms very clearly that that's a very clear and important hot zone. Louisiana, though, has 26% of their tests are positive. Michigan, Connecticut, Indiana, Georgia, Illinois, so that should tell you where the next hotspots are coming, are at 15% test positive, and then Colorado, DC, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts are at 13%. There's a significant number of states still under 10%, every one that I didn't discuss. California and Washington remain steady at an 8% rate. So what we're seeing finally is testing improving, more testing being done, still a high level of negatives in states without hotspots, allowing them to do more of this surveillance and containment. And then prioritizing this new rapid test kit to those areas that may not have the same amount of access to the Indian health services and to the public health institutions and the public health and state labs, so that they can use that and start forward leaning into surveillance. Now, we know that our people waiting for tests, and they're waiting for tests because when these areas became when they got onto the logarithmic curve, we prioritized people whose decisions, where the test decision would make it critical for their care. And so we prioritized hospitals, and we prioritized nurses and doctors and frontline workers. So that means if you went through a drive-through or you went through your doctor, you could have that delay. So the masks. So what I tried to give you is how we're using data in a very granular way. And
Question
so
was masks.
There's experiential data when you look at communities that have oftentimes utilized masks in general for personal protection from when they particularly are themselves sick and have used their mask in public. And we've looked at the rate of this COVID-19 in those populations. And then we're looking at the scientific evidence to bring those 2 pieces together. Let me just say one thing, though. The most important thing is the social distancing and washing your hands. And we don't want people to get an artificial sense of protection because they're behind a mask. Because if they're touching things, remember, your eyes are not in the mask. So if you're touching things and then touching your eyes, you're exposing yourself in the same way. So we don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm wearing a mask, I'm protected and I'm protecting others. You may be protecting others, but don't get a false sense of security that that mask is protecting you exclusively from getting infected, because there are other ways that you can get infected because the
Trump likes
number of
that.
asymptomatic and mild cases that are out there. And so this worries us, and that's why the debate is continuing about the mask, because we don't want, when we're trying to send a signal that every single person in this country needs to stay 6 feet away from everybody, that needs to be washing their hands constantly and know where their hands are, to send a signal that we think a mask is equivalent to those pieces. So when the advisory comes out, it will be an additive piece if it comes out, rather than saying this is a substitute for. And we want to make sure everybody understands it is not a substitute for the presidential guidelines that have already gone out, and to be absolutely clear about that.
Quick
question about the test, Dr. Burks.
Dr. Burks, there's a lot of evidence we're seeing that experts are saying that a high number of these tests could be producing false negatives. So,
Of the Roche and Abbott tests?
That as many as 1 in 3 tests might be providing false negatives. I was wondering, maybe you could explain.
That would
talk a little
almost
bit about
be
the science.
impossible with having 35% positives. If that was true, you would have
Sorry about the
100%
underlying
positive
data
or
here.
66% positive. So what I can tell you is the number of
not
positive
sure about that
tests
math,
is
Doc.
tracking very closely with the number of cases diagnosed. So I don't.
It
I
would
will-
be a third of the negatives. So that math is bogus math.
They're trending exactly in the same way. And that's important when you're validating data,
man.
to really validate, does this same site, in other words, I'm looking between testing sites to see,
She doesn't claim to be a mathematician.
is there an anomaly, to make sure for what you just very specifically asked. So I will go back and look at it more carefully. I haven't seen that kind of anomaly. This same platform is being used across the country, and that's a range from what I reported, 3% positivity up to 35% positivity. And that range reflects also what we're seeing with the hot spots and the number of cases. And frankly, I mean, we hate to talk about it, but it also tracks with the hospitalizations independent of diagnosis and the mortality that we're seeing. So all of those pieces validate
Concerned
together.
that people might be getting a false sense of security, or that we might not be seeing all of the data here on who has it.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm still missing 50% of the data from reporting. I have 660 tests reported in. We've done 1.3 million. So there is, and it could be those sites. So we do need to see the bill said you need to report. We're still not receiving 100% of the tests.
Dr. Burks, with regard to the test, the president's sample collection took 1 minute, results were reported back in 15 minutes. I realize you're the president of the United States, but when will everyone get to take a test that works that quickly and you get results that quickly?
So these are new tests, and we have prioritized the groups that we think have the least access to testing now. And who do we mean by that? We mean the Indian Health Service. They're often in remote areas, rural areas, the governors of the northwestern states that may not have the advantage of these high throughput machines that are often across the East Coast and in high metro areas, Colorado, and then across the West Coast. So we've prioritized the presidential 15-minute test to the Indian Health Services and public health labs so that they can support nursing home testing and other areas.
I
where
really
we
want
think
people to understand that the 15-minute test, the machine can do one test at a time, right? So it can do 4 people per hour. So if a place only has one machine, you actually need to do the math as to whether in total you're really getting more results.
So I'm glad you asked that, because today there's 18,000 of these machines
There we go.
already out there. We're trying to find out exactly where everyone is, because you can see that gives you amazing flexibility. Because if people would allow it to be loaned to a state that's in a hot spot or a state where you want to do additional surveillance, 18,000 tests, 18,000 machines is a huge amount. And it really gets to your very question about how we can prioritize what we have at the same time we're moving out what is new. And so really figuring out who should those go to, who can we ask communities, because these will be in the community, to share those machines into the community who need the testing now. And I think that's really an incredible question that really needs to be answered over the next 24 hours.
Dr. Burks, the point of clarity about the face covering guidance, you said it's still a point of debate. You said to use the phrase the guidance if it comes out. Is the guidance coming out, and when?
Yes.
And when, sir?
In the days ahead, we're currently working through the task force, taking the consultation advice, CDC, our top health experts, and we'll be bringing forward.
My guess is they'll say, to try to avoid the hoarding and people going crazy, if you have a mask, you are advised to wear it, but they won't say definitely go out and buy one, but people will anyway, and then they'll wash their hands of the hoarding.
When we say no gatherings of 10, we're looking at, we wanted to be clear, if you have a family of 10, we don't want you to be split up, but we don't expect people to be having dinner parties, cocktail parties. I mean, I know you've seen the slope in the United States versus the slope in Italy. And we have to change that slope. We have to change the logarithmic curve that we're on. We see country after country having done that. What it means in the United States is not everyone is doing it. So we're only as strong as every community, every county, every state, every American following the guidelines to a T. And I can tell by the curve, and as it is today, that not every American is following it. And so this is really a call to action. We see Spain, we see Italy, we see France, we see Germany. When we see others beginning to bend their curves, we can bend ours, but it means everybody has to take that same responsibility as Americans.
Mr. President, Mr. President, can I have a quick follow-up on oil, please? In your conversations with Russia and Saudi Arabia, did you have to make any concessions to get them to agree to cut their production?
No.
Like, did you agree to cut U.S. production of oil?
No, we didn't discuss that. They want to do that. That's good for their countries, and we did not discuss that, no.
NBC News has learned that the Navy is set to fire the captain of the USS Theodore Roosevelt after he raised red flags about the COVID-19 outbreak on his ship. It appears as if he's being punished for trying to save the lives of the sailors in his command.
No, I don't
What's
think
your
so at
assessment?
all, but we're going to wait a little while because I understand there's a news conference by the Secretary of Defense about that. But no, I don't agree with that at all. Not at all, not even a little bit. Yeah?
Thank you. This morning you said once again that New York got off to a late start and they should have pushed harder. But governors and other state leaders say they rely on the federal government to assess the situation and how risky it is. And they want to know, how would they have known to start sooner without your guidance?
Well, they have experts, and frankly, long after we came out and talked about it, look, how would I have known to cut off China? I cut off China very early, and if I didn't, we would have a chart that you wouldn't believe. So how would I know to do that? How would I know to cut off Europe? I cut off Europe very early. I mean, you have to make a decision. People knew that some bad things were going on, and they got off to a late start. And some others got off to a late start also. But we cut off China. If we didn't cut off China, we would have been in some big trouble. And we cut it off. And you know what? We cut it off way early. Go ahead.
Mr. President, to follow up on the insurance point in a separate question that came in from a colleague who can't be in the room. On the insurance point, is there going to be roll call? Is there going to be an opportunity for insurance companies, if in fact hospitals are compensated for uncompensated care, are the insurance companies going to also get compensated for extraordinary expenses that they may have, or are they assuming that cost?
So we haven't discussed it, but we're talking to them. getting them not to pay co-pays in the case of the big ones was a tremendous thing. That's a lot of money they gave up. But we're discussing that with the insurance companies. We'll let you know. It'll be pretty quickly. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question on Japan, sir. They are expanding their entry ban to include the United States. Are you planning to take any similar action to ban Japanese nationals from coming to the U.S. as a result of this crisis?
Well, we're looking at a lot of things. And
We're looking at it.
Different bans. We have more bans than anybody. We
That's
had
on the
bans
bingo
when
card.
bans weren't fashionable, if you remember, right at the beginning of this administration. It was for different reasons. But we've had bans long before people thought of bans. When I did China, it had never been done before. I was the first one to do it. Remember
That's on the
that? It
bingo
had
card
never,
also.
according to what I read in all the papers, this had never been done. This is a terrible thing to do. And 4 weeks later, they were all saying, we're lucky we did it. So we're looking at it. No, we heard that. And I think it's fine that they do that. They're trying to protect their country, and we have to protect our country. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I asked you yesterday about stay-at-home orders and if that, decision should be left in the hands of governors or if you're considering telling the entire nation, stay at home.
Yeah.
So just today, Georgia's governor finally issued a stay-at-home order saying that individuals could have been infecting people before they ever felt bad, but we didn't know that until the last 24 hours. Is that ignorance, gross incompetence?
He's a good governor, Brian Kemp. He's
You've
a
been
very
having
good.
calls with these
He's a
governors.
good governor, and he has to make his own decision on that. I let the states. I think we're about 85% positive on that. If you look, I think it's about 85% of the states have got to stay at home. Brian's a great governor.
Not quite
It's
a good
his
governor,
decision.
no.
He made that decision. Ultimately, he decided to go along with it. And they're doing well, and the state's doing well in many respects.
state's not doing well.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
This is another question from a colleague who couldn't make it in today, from Emily Gooden at the Daily Mail. I had a question in regards to the Russian plane that landed at JFK with medical supplies. Did the United States ask Russia for this aid, or is it just accepting it?
We're accepting it. It was a very nice offer from President Putin. I spoke to him the other night, as I told you, and they had excess medical equipment, things, and
elements.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I think it's very nice. We've had some from China. We also help other countries. We like doing that. Like I said before, if we have excess stuff, we let it go out. We let some go out where, frankly, they had orders for it, and I didn't want to stop orders. It was a very nice gesture on behalf of President Putin, and I could have said no thank you, or I could have said thank you. And it was a large plane of very high-quality medical supplies, and I said, I'll take it.
Offering any further aid in your
I
conversation?
think he would if we asked for it, but he was very nice. It was part of the call. He suggested, he said, we have it. It's additional. They have very big difficulties with this virus also, as you know, Russia. I thought it was a very nice gesture on behalf of President Putin. I could have said, no, I don't want it, or I could have said, I'll take it. And you know what I said? I'll take it.
Except further aid.
I think so, yeah. If they send things that we need, I'd take it, sure.
Concerns about Russian
Nice gesture.
propaganda?
No, I'm not concerned about Russian propaganda, not even a little bit. He offered a lot of medical, high-quality stuff that I accepted, and that may save a lot of lives. I'll take it every day. Please, in the back.
President, you said that in January you tweeted that you stand with the people of Iran since the beginning of your presidency, and you'll continue to stand with the people of Iran, given the fact they're so hard hit with coronavirus.
Oh, they're very hard hit.
But
They're
would you
very hard
consider
hit. In a lot of
easing-
ways, they're hard hit. They're hit with their economy, with their military, and with, obviously, the virus. They're very hard hit.
Would you consider easing sanctions to allow medical supplies to get in?
Well, they haven't even asked us to do that.
But we know that sanctions hit the people, not the government.
You know what? They haven't even asked us to do that. If they want to meet, would love to meet and would love to settle the whole thing out.
Let 'em
but
ask.
I doubt they'll be.
So realistically, how does a person in Tehran pick up the phone and call you?
I think they love America. I think the Iranians love America. I think they'd love to be free. I think
Nasty.
they'd love to have just some of the things that we have. You know, I remember Iran many years ago. Friends of mine were always in Iran. They were doing real estate deals in Iran. They were building beautiful buildings all over Iran, apartment houses. They were very successful. And then one day that came to an end. But you know what? The people of Iran, they remember that. It was a long time ago, but not so long ago. They remember it. And I'll tell you, they love America. They love what we stand for.
But how do they call you?
And we're not looking for change. We're not looking for government takeover, government change. You know, this country's been through that many times. That doesn't work.
People, would you encourage other countries who are maybe concerned about
No, but what I
running
did,
afoul
what I
of
did is, I
sanctions
put it out very publicly with respect to Iran. I said if they need help with respect to the virus, we'd love to send. We have the greatest medical professionals in the world. We'd love to send.
What countries are
them
you
over.
encouraging, perhaps, to lend their support? Because there are many countries that
I'm
feel
not encouraging or discouraging. They've been a very hostile country. They made a deal that President Obama should have never made. It was a short-term deal, giving them $150 billion, giving them $1.8 billion in cash. Green,
Your
fill up this room 5
administration,
times.
Do you
Look,
have a moral responsibility?
No, not at all. Nobody's even asked me about it. I have a moral responsibility to help them if they ask. If they needed help, I would certainly consider
The
different
United
things.
Nations says they need help.
Well, that's up to the United Nations. I'm talking about us. And what happens is if they wanted help, because they have a very big case of virus, a very, very big case, one of the worst on earth.
I don't know that this is the best line of questioning right now.
I happen to believe what I see and what I know. And if they wanted help, we'd give them help. Yeah, you had one in the back, please.
Mr. President, and a question for Jared too. You talk about a granular approach to receiving data from these different states and regions to try and figure out what they need.
How is she back in the
President, you
room?
just
She was
enacted-
kicked out yesterday because she doesn't have a seat, and the White House Correspondents Association said she's not allowed in anymore, and she's back again.
Besides masks and ventilators that are slowly kind of rising in terms of need, like hand sanitizer, for instance.
Sure. So the first issue that we've been dealing with was really the ventilators. That was the number 1, number 2, and number 3 from all the states. What we've been finding is that people have a lot of these requests based on the models, and what we've been trying to do over at FEMA is say to the states, well, if you would like ventilators, we need to see, first look in your states, right? So for example, in northern Jersey, they're going down to southern Jersey and they're finding ventilators and trying to relocate them to where they have their hotspots. The second thing that we've done is we've asked them to survey for alternative ventilators. Dr. Berg spoke before about the anesthesia machines and the ability to convert them to be ventilators. So we're asking people to be resourceful inside their states before they come to the federal government. The third thing we've been asking states to do is to provide what their daily utilization rates are. So everyone's asking for everything. One congressman got a call from his local hospital saying, I need 250 ventilators. And he said, well, you don't have a COVID patient within 4 counties. Why do you want 250 ventilators? And he says, well, we just want to be safe. We're very nervous right now. So what you have all over the country is a lot of people are asking for things that they don't necessarily need at the moment.
Oh, God.
And the job of FEMA
called being
and that whole
prepared.
glove check has been to try to make sure that we're getting the real data from the cities, from the states, that we can make real-time allocation decisions based on the data. And right now what's happening is a lot of the different cities and states are providing FEMA that information. We're talking to them daily. They're updating that information daily, and that's enabling the federal government to make much more informed decisions on where they position ventilators. You also have a situation where in some states, FEMA allocated ventilators to the states, and you have instances where in cities they're running out, but the state still has a stockpile. And the notion of the federal stockpile was it's supposed to be our stockpile. It's not supposed to be state stockpiles that they then use. So we're encouraging the states to make sure that they're assessing the needs, they're getting the data from their local situations, and then trying to fill it with the supplies that we've given them. The same thing with the mask. So the N95 mask is actually an item that wasn't used as frequently in the medical profession before this. It was used mostly for diseases. So speaking to a lot of the doctors and hospital administrators, they would say they used actually a very low percentage of the N95 masks. What the president and the vice president were able to do with Congress was to get the waiver so that you could expand the pool, because a lot of the masks were used for the construction industry. So now there's a much bigger pool of masks in the country. There was a stockpile. They distributed that based on where they anticipated a lot of the need would go, but a lot of that still is stuck with the states, and it hasn't trickled down to the right places within the state. So I would just encourage you, when you have governors saying that the federal government hasn't given them what they need, I would just urge you to ask them, well, have you looked within your state to make sure that you haven't been able to find the resources? Unlike other countries, a lot of the medical system in America is a private. It's not a public government controlled. So you have to get the data from what's in their state, look at it in that way, and then make sure that they're being resourceful in a way to do that. And also ask them what their utilization percentage is, because if one governor is asking for more ventilators, and if the federal government sends them more than they need, the goal here is not to have ventilators sitting in a warehouse where you have another state where you have people who need them. So what we're trying to do is make informed, data-driven decisions, both on ventilators, masks, any other supply we can get, to make sure it's going to the people who need them.
So he says they used to only use N95 masks for diseases. I see.
Unnamed White House officials have described your role as being something of running a shadow task force. How do you describe your role? How do you describe the qualifications you bring to your role?
Yeah, I would just say very simply, look, the president asked the vice president
Trump's
to run the
pissed at
task
these
force.
questions.
The vice president asked me to assist. I've been serving really at the direction of the vice president. He's asked me to get involved in different projects. The vice president and I speak probably sometimes 5-10 times a day, but everything that I'm doing is at the direction of the vice president. If some people are talking to you, that means they're probably not informed as to what's going on, but I can assure you that I'm speaking with Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci, the vice president, and the president multiple times a day to make sure that I'm accomplishing and focusing on the objectives that the vice president deems a priority.
To follow up on the
Or
ventilators
they
and
don't
the
exist.
national
Or these
stockpile.
sources don't exist. They're fake sources. Okay? A lot of fake sources out there, they don't exist.
Was he saying
I read
fake
about it for
sources?
a long time I've been reading. A lot of them, fake sources, they don't exist. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jared, what triggers sending a ventilator from the national stockpile to a state? In other words,
Great
how sick
question.
does somebody have to be to get one of these national ventilators?
Well, that's not the issue that's not the criteria. You have the states basically putting in their requests, and they're giving us their utilization percentages. So it's a very simple formula. The states should know how many ventilators they have in their states. And by the way, some governors you speak to are senators, and they don't know what's in their state. You know, some governors I'll speak to, and they'll know to the number how many ventilators they have in their state, because that's the first thing a good manager will do. What a lot of the voters are seeing now is that when you elect somebody to be a mayor or a governor or a president, you're trying to think about who will be a competent manager during the time of crisis. This is a time of crisis, and you're seeing certain people are better managers than others. So what I would say is that the way that the federal government's trying to allocate it is they're trying to make sure, A, you have your data, right? Don't ask us for things when you know that, when you don't know what you have in your own state. Just because you're scared, you ask your medical professionals, and they don't know. You have to take inventory of what you have in your own state, and then you have to be able to show that there's a real need. And so we pre-positioned a lot of things because most governors off the bat didn't know what they needed. But FEMA has a joint command with Admiral Polovchek, Admiral Giroir, and Pete Gaynor, where every couple hours when their requests come in, they evaluate the requests, they all vote on the requests, and then if there's something that they want to elevate to the task force, they bring it to the vice president to make a recommendation.
Jared, if I may, you might ask Deborah we're literally tracking hospitalization cases on a daily basis.